No.
Okay, the time is now 6 o'clock, and I call to order this regular meeting of Borough Council, November 13th, 2025, and we begin with a moment of silence and Pledge of Allegiance by Councilor Mellon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just let the mayor know. So I was thinking about what I was going to do for this on Sunday. So just bear with me. It'll make sense when I go through this. But so over the last several weeks, there's the government inaction led to the temporary suspension of a number of important social service programs that serve as a safety net for our most vulnerable neighbors and friends. And so you might have noticed if you were on a state or federal government website trying to help a neighbor or a family friend find some help, a lot of them said something like, "We're sorry, SNAP or LawHeap or WIC or Head Start are temporarily on hold. If you need help, please call 211. How many of you are familiar with 211? You know what 211 is? Oh, good, a few hands, but not very many. So 211 is a social services hotline. It's been in existence since about the year 2000. There's local providers of 211 throughout the country, but in Pennsylvania, it's a project of the United Way, and callers to 211 are connected to an operator who listens to their specific needs, puts them in touch with the services in their area that they need. So if you're facing eviction, if you can't afford your groceries, if you're a woman in a domestic abuse situation and you don't know where to turn, you call 211, it's confidential, there's an operator on the other end, and they'll connect you to whatever services you need. And so that could be a combination of federal, state, or county government resources, or it could be local social service nonprofits like homeless shelters, food pantries, etc. So 211 gets a really small amount of funding from the state government, but it's mostly funded by local philanthropic support. And in May, I was at the state capitol visiting our elected officials, and I had with me the woman who runs the 211 program for South Central PA. She serves an 11-county footprint. We were there asking the government to fund 211 as a public utility, and basically she said her budget is stretched so thin that she had to reduce the number of operators on each shift to just one person answering all the 211 calls for an 11-county footprint. So it's ironic to me that in this current environment, both the federal and the state government web pages were saying, if you're in need, call 211 in order to get connected to local nonprofits, while the government safety nets that are supposed to be out there to help our most vulnerable people were not functioning. LawHeap, SNAP, WIC, Head Start, state education budgets, all on hold, and area nonprofits are expected to fill the rest. So let me give you an example. Yes, food pantries exist. We have a fantastic food pantry in town, Project Share. It provides really crucial support to a lot of our neighbors. But for every one meal that the charitable food network provides, SNAP provides 9. So there's just no way in the current environment for nonprofits and private philanthropy to carry the entire burden of support that's needed in a moment that both the federal and state government support systems shut down. So we have become so polarized as a society. It's reflected in our politics. The two sides are so divided. Everyone's 100% convinced that they're right. They have the moral high ground. It's led to inflammatory rhetoric, to insults, to vitriol, to hatred. Each side demonizes the other by calling them evil or monsters, and in some cases it's led to political violence, but it's also led us here where our government grinds entirely to a halt and stops working for us. It's led to a place where we've completely lost the ability to compromise, to find common ground, or find solutions. It took Congress 44 days past their deadline to come to a deal, and it took the state legislature 135 days past their deadline to come to a deal. It's not the lawmakers that suffer. They all still got paid through the whole thing. They might have had small victories back and forth. The Republicans won on this side. The Democrats won this little thing. But who won? I still don't know who won, but I can tell you who lost. And it's the people that lose every single time, particularly those of us that are struggling, our neighbors who are at risk literally of freezing or starving because of a complete inability to compromise and to work together. So this is the part where I was going to say, I'm not asking for a moment of silence. I'm asking for your voices to call your legislators and tell them to open the government. Well, they happened to open both the state government and the federal government yesterday. So instead, I'm just going to say, please don't let this be normalized. This was a catastrophic failure of a system, and the basic tenets of civil society, reject the us versus them framing and the impulse to revert to tribalism and take sides, and demand a government that actually works together to put people first. So, please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Council Mellon. Madam Secretary, the roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Landis.
Here.
Ms. Mellon.
Here.
Ms. Perry.
Here.
Ms. Bruce.
Here.
Mr. Shiles.
Here.
Mr. Studi.
Here.
Mayor Schultz.
Here.
Mr. Clement.
Here.
Just in time, Councilor Studi. Nice time. Hopefully you didn't miss Councilor Mellon's speech. Great. I'm going to go a little bit out of order because a number of folks in this room tonight are here to celebrate a special occasion, something that actually occurred in July. So I'm going to mosey down to the podium. So for those of you who don't know me well, I'm a huge soccer fan, and I don't know that. Where's Coach Fitzgerald? It's Coach. There you are, Coach. I'm going to call you up here in a moment, but and we've been fortunate here in Carlisle. I think we've punched above our weight class a number of times. We're 4-time state champions in boys basketball. We had a finalist in the National Spelling Bee. We've had players go on to have careers in the NBA and the NFL. Well, this year we had pretty amazing group of young women do something in July that we're going to celebrate. And as I said, I'm a big soccer fan. As one of the founding members of the Sons of Ben. So if you know the Philadelphia Union, Sons of Ben is the supporters group. So embarrassingly, probably too recently, I used to sit or stand for 90 minutes in the river end sing songs and chants and wearing a skull mask and being a little crazier than you would expect from a mayor. Everything was legal. I never got in trouble. We never got caught anyway. But Coach Fitzgerald, would you join me up here? Coach Doug, do you go by Coach Doug or Coach Fitzgerald? All I know is that when I was trying to find our email exchange as we were trying to pull this together, I Googled, I went to my Gmail and checked for your email address, and I found that we both coached youth soccer. When my son was 6 years old, I was coaching his U7 team. I think you were coaching a U5 team back in 2016. So,
that's about right.
So we almost crossed paths back then. But I'm gonna present a proclamation. But I want to give Coach, if you would just take an opportunity to talk about your team. This is a team that went on to win the 2025 U.S. Youth Soccer National President's Cup in Florida. They're champions from Carlisle, and I want to make sure the coach has an opportunity to, because his comments in the email were, they were jumping off the screen to me. So there's so much pride in this coach. I want to give him the opportunity to say a few words. Go ahead.
I did not prepare for this. I'll just share really briefly with each of you. Well, first, thank you very much for taking up time to recognize these girls. But I think one of the reasons we are so successful is that they've been playing together here in Carlisle for a number of years, since they were 6, 7, 8 years old together. And this trend, I'm not supposed to say 6, 7. but it really was 6 or 7 years old when they started. The road to the national championship, started on youth soccer fields, that are right here in Carlisle and South Middleton. We have a number of players from South Middleton as well. But as young kids, they started playing. I have a community that supports them. In the fields that are maintained, the George B. Stewart athletic fields. So a lot of ties to Carlisle. I'm not originally from Carlisle. I'm from Washington, D.C., so moving here was a little different for me. But when I came and found the love for the sport that existed here in Carlisle, it was a little piece of home. Now this has become home years and years later. But these girls, they triumphed down in Tampa because of the unity and the bond that they had that was created by the youth soccer program that's here in Carlisle. And when it got really tough, they got stronger together. And it got really tough really fast. We played a lot of really good teams, but in the end, kindness, heart, grit, and just the fact that they lift each other up every single time we take the field. And that won't stop. We're going to continue. We had practice last night, so we'll keep working hard and hopefully win another national championship for the state of PA this year. So thank you very much for having us.
I'm going to go through the. You can stay up here with me, Coach. Don't leave me yet, because I'm going to call your players up. I know many of them are here. Not all of them. Some of them graduated from high school since then, or had already graduated from high school by the time the championship was won, and are off at college. So if you would come up, if you're here, join your coach here behind me. And if I butcher any of the names, I'm really sorry. I didn't get all the phonetics from the coach, but I tried. Elizabeth Borden, are you here? Hi, Elizabeth. Sophie Creasy. Olivia Durbin. I think she's off at college. Olivia? Yeah. Okay. You can cheer for Olivia. Avery Fitzgerald. I can assume there's a relation. Yeah. Lucy Ford. Ella Garman. Eden Hackett. Reese Hughes. Nadia Iannuzzi. I buy pizza from your dad. Samantha Neisen. Adelaide Cradell. Addison McAllen. Olivia McBride. Ava McBride. This didn't happen for soccer, did it? Yeah. Paige Myers. Samantha Oaks. I'm sorry, Savannah Oaks. I've been making this bifocal joke all year because my optometrist told me to get bifocals. So sorry about this, Savannah. Peyton Peel. Olivia Quinn. Torin Rost. Cassie Shepard. Kendall Whitman. Am I missing a name? Oh, Tess Hughes. I'm sorry, Tess. There you go. So, congratulations. I got everybody now. All right. There's a long list, and your hands are probably all worn out now. But I'm going to read the proclamation. This is honoring the Carlisle Cannons U18 girls soccer team, 2025 U.S. Youth Soccer National President's Cup champions. Whereas the Carlisle Cannons U18 girls soccer team began their U.S. Soccer National President's Cup journey in October 2024, demonstrating commitment, discipline, and excellence from the very first qualifier match. And whereas the Cannons advanced through the Pennsylvania State Cup pool in April and May, culminating in a decisive 2-0 victory in the State Cup final held at the Philadelphia Union's WSFS Bank Sportsplex on May 17, 2025. And whereas the team continued their winning streak at the USYS Regionals in June, going undefeated, scoring 11 goals, conceding none, and earning the title of regional champions. And whereas at the same time, the Carlisle Cannons also excelled in the EDP League, finishing at the top of their table. That's the standings for those of you who aren't familiar with soccer, showcasing their consistency and depth across all competitions. And whereas the Cannons represented Pennsylvania with pride and determination at the USYS National Championships in Florida from July 10th through the 15th, 2025, advancing from pool play to defeat Tennessee in a dramatic semifinal that went into double extra time, and ultimately triumphing 2-0 over undefeated Chicagoland USC in the national championship match. And whereas the team's success was built not only on skill and strategy, but on unity, perseverance, and an unwavering commitment to one another, exemplified most powerfully in their semifinal match, which defined their identity as a team. Whereas 4 outstanding Carlisle Cannons players were named to the USYS Best 11 for their exceptional performance. Reese Hughes, center back, Samantha Nisley, attacking midfielder, Ella Garman, forward, and Elizabeth Bordner, goalkeeper and recipient of the Golden Gloves Award. And whereas the Carlisle Cannons' achievements have brought pride and inspiration to our community, truly, serving as a model of sportsmanship, teamwork, and excellence for youth across Carlisle and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Now, therefore, I, Sean Schultz, Mayor of Carlisle Borough, Pennsylvania, do hereby proclaim and recognize the accomplishments of the Carlisle Cannons U18 girls soccer team as 2025 USYS national champions and commend them for their representation of our community on the national stage and their embodiment of the values we hold dear. Thank you all. Congratulations. We're going to take a pause because I think half this room is going to clear out now that we've finished this. So we're going to be in recess for a bit. If anybody wants to take some photos, some folks want to do that if you want to, as a team, come together and take some photos. We'll take some time. So we're going to be in recess for a moment. Sure. What? Okay, we'll come back to order. And next is an opportunity for citizens and visitors to be heard. So this is an opportunity for public comment. What I'll do though tonight, because I know a number of folks who are here will probably want to be speaking on the final item on the agenda under reports from council members and staff. If you hold your public comment until that point, we'll take public comment on that item. So that's all the way on page 4 of the agenda if you have that. If there is anybody who might not be able to stick around, we're going to tear through most of these votes relatively quickly. Most of the votes before that are not controversial, so we're going to move through those votes pretty quickly. But if anybody's not sure, they won't be able to be here for the next 20 minutes or so. You might want to come up to the podium and make whatever comment you would like on that, or any other issue of borough government. Now's the time to step forward. Go ahead, Mr. Evans.
Yeah, James Evans, 157 B Street. I'll be speaking later with the Gagwell folks, but I just wanted to address, I know they're state roads. There were some things I was working. Thanks for the people that did input to try to get South Hanover paved down to Lindsay Lane. I know I reached out about PennDOT, I think it's District 8, correct me if I'm wrong. They said due to budget shortfalls, they couldn't pave the last little section from High Street to connect to the new roundabout, 2 blocks because of budgetary issues. So what I would ask is folks, not only from the borough, but I pass information for people to do the PennDOT website, but to push to get that connected and also to get High Street paved as well. Now at the budget, they need to start looking at that because the roads are truly terrible. But for those that did weigh in and get on PennDOT, thank you. But we got 2 blocks that could be still paved going forward. But that's all I have. Thank you for now.
Thank you, James.
Yep.
I'll just remind folks, James is here often enough that we know who he is, but when you come up, we'll need your name and address for the record. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on any issue of borough government? Yes, come on.
And I'll just say to James's point, thank you for applauding us, but really it was you all who kept on calling PennDOT. So keep on calling PennDOT because we can reiterate what you say, but it really helps to have you all say the same thing over and over again. And I think High Street is maybe next year.
Yeah.
Sorry, Owen Parker, 613 North Hanover Street. That sounds really good. Anyway, the reason I'm here. So I'm just here as a concerned citizen to raise the issue of the clearing of our unhoused neighbors from the central square. Now, I know that's county property, but it's still kind of a problem that we as a community have to address. Now, I was hoping that a few of them would be able to show up, but communication's been very difficult, which I'm about to detail. So the clearing that I refer to occurred on, I believe, Sunday, and unfortunately, that's the same place that people have been directed to sleep for a number of weeks. A lot of these people are in outreach. A lot of these people do not have phones that function. Some don't even have that. So coordinating help, mutual support, all that kind of thing has become very difficult after the clearing. Just get that. There we go. Well, some of the folks experiencing housing instability are indeed able to access the support provided by the wonderful folks at Safe Harbor and Community Cares. That's not true in all cases. So for folks in outreach, if they do not have a place that are allowed to congregate regularly, everything about their lives becomes much, much harder in a way that doesn't necessarily need to happen. Now, as I said, I would have liked for some folks to come up here to speak for themselves, but the big recommendations or biggest complaints, I guess, the biggest damage has been done. And the way to fix that is, I've been told many times, the emergency shelters, if they can be opened up early, would be the ideal short-term solution. I understand that's not long-term, but just an immediate time that would give them a place to congregate that is safe and warm. I understand that if that cannot be done, if that's not in the budget, that a park with a good windbreak and sub 30-minute walk is to the center of town is made available for camping. And if neither are possible, just some place where they can congregate, talk, and coordinate. Anyway, again, due to the aforementioned difficulties in communication, it will take some time for our in-house community to prepare like an information packet with like recommendations on what to do. However, until then, I hope that the council will consider various organized means of addressing this issue, both to address the immediate problems as well as perhaps further long-term ones. Furthermore, I would urge considerations of methodologies which are flexible to the individual, we're meeting them where they are, locally implementable, and which are not necessarily reliant on support coming from outside the community. That's all, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak on any issues of borough government? Go ahead, sir. Yeah, I think you were the only hand I saw. You can just make your way over to the podium, yep, if you're able.
My name is Dr. Gary Blacksmith. I'm a past member of the Carlisle Cable Communications System Advisory Commission in 2004. We had an agreement that we made with Comcast at that time, and one of the significant parts of that agreement was that they would serve the entire borough. They were given time, and they agreed that every resident would have access to cable from them. I live at 1215 Georgetown Circle in Carlisle at Walnut Court. We have underground there. It's not an aerial installation. And because of that, these companies that have come to town fail to consider that a primary place to go because it's expensive to install fiber underground down our street. I did talk with Glow Fiber, and they said, oh yeah, next year we'll be out. Well, next year is come and gone. They did go down the alley behind me, but they would not hook me up to the system they had right behind me, nor would they hook my neighbor, who also wanted to go with Glow Fiber. And the same thing can be said for Brightspeed, but Brightspeed did not have to make a franchise agreement with their system. You know why they didn't have to make an agreement? Because they bought a company that had an agreement, and they were just changing the wires. They already had the right to go over the streets in the borough. Now, I have Comcast, and that's it. It would be nice to have competition so that if the prices get out of hand, I can go to another company. And I have friends in Mechanicsburg that do just that same thing. They go every 3 years, they switch. If they don't have a good deal from the company they're with, they go to the other company. But we don't have that in Walnut Court. I was also told that the reason we don't have underground, this is from them, is that there's not an agreement with the HOA that's around the corner. They wanted to run the cable through them to me. Well, I think that was a made-up story. It never happened. So what I'm telling you is that whoever wrote this agreement 4 years ago with Glow Fiber was not on the ball. 4 years ago, you had an opportunity to insist to Glow Fiber that you covered the whole borough. And what happened is they said they would put them in certain areas to start with and do the rest as was economically feasible. There was no time period given for them to complete the installation. And it's been 4 years and nothing has happened. And I think that's all the fault of you people that sit up here in the front when you made this agreement. Questions?
There doesn't appear to be any. Thank you, sir. And we still have contacts with Glow Fiber that we can perhaps look into and see where the areas of the borough that have not been completed yet. Okay. So we'll do that. Okay. Anyone else? Come on up.
Eric Smith, 121 Southeast Street. You might hear from me later too, but for now, I just wanted to speak in support of a few items on Section D of the agenda, especially 4 and 5 here, addressing a resolution to ask our legislators in Harrisburg to support the creation of community energy programs. For those not aware, a community energy program is essentially a collective bargaining agreement where multiple municipalities can band together and say we want to buy our own energy for our residents. I know everybody is probably familiar with the skyrocketing electrical costs around here and the expectations that those will continue to go up as certain folks seem to view our great area as a perfect place for more data centers, which are extremely energy intensive. Right now, we are essentially living subject to a monopoly on energy utilities, and community energy programs like this are currently illegal at the state level. And so this is asking the borough to support a bill on the floor at the state level to make this legal. So right now we're subject to a monopoly, and we are barred from having any right to gather collectively with other municipalities in our area to try and have any power to talk to these companies. And I believe that this really speaks to the core of what a lot of what often comes before this council is about, and that's that we get caught in the crossfires really often of big companies and big players because of our unique location and history. But Carlisle is more than a place that gets passed through and overlooked. We're a community of people who live and love to be here. So whether it is getting our roads fixed, roads that PennDOT forced us to allow to be highways, back in several decades ago, the borough passed a resolution asking that to make the downtown area pedestrian only, and PennDOT said no, we want to drive freight through there. And that is why our roads have so much wear and tear. Whether it's that or companies saying, oh, we don't have to listen to the little people who want cable access that we promised to give it to them. We have a home rule charter for a reason, and it's hard for a small municipality like ours to do all the amazing things we already do in the high cost world we have. But when we look at all these failures that we're seeing and disappointments being passed down from Harrisburg and Washington and corporate meeting rooms, I think it really underscores across the board how important it is for us to stand together as a community and say that we have a right to negotiate collectively, whether it comes to energy or roads or anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. I should take the moment, since you mentioned the General Assembly, to are you telling me no? Oh yeah, you can go. I recognize that Representative Barb Lime is here with us tonight. You don't have to unless you have your 5 minutes of public comment if you would like.
I'm here for a different reason, but do you want me to respond?
Sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
We don't often have our state legislators here, so. Oh, we lost.
When people move it, it sometimes burns off. It's because I got it.
No.
There we go. There you go.
Okay, yeah, I just want to say that it's the worst one.
Please move the on button I've ever seen.
I won't touch it.
There you go.
I'm actually, for that. And I think that you will also see there's a co-op bill that's been there for years. It was House Bill 555, but it's to co-op healthcare across certain companies also that are similar. I know the construction industries have been pushing for that for years because their risk is high, and so their healthcare insurance is high. But I think that's a great idea, and we just have to get the votes. And also fire. You guys, we've been telling fire companies all along, we're going to have to start working together, and we might have to co-op them as well. So great idea. I'm all for it. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, that was easy. Anyone else? And do we have anybody by Zoom? Okay. All right. We'll move on. Move on to the consent agenda. This is a list of routine items which do not appear to be controversial in nature and which probably do not require additional discussion. They can be acted on by one motion in their current form. If discussion is desired on any particular item, any member of council or the public may request the item be removed from the consent agenda, and that item will be considered separately. So these are the items on pages 1 and 2. Is any member of council asking for an item be removed? Any member of the public? Okay. Seeing none, I'll consider a motion. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion to approve the consent agenda by the Deputy Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Mellon. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries. We'll move on to the regular agenda. There are no tabled, continued, and recurring items. I already took care of my report at the beginning of the meeting, and we'll move on to reports from committees, budget and finance.
Thank you, Mayor Schultz. I have 2 items this evening. I make the motion that Borough Council approve contracts for 2 elevator repair projects with Otis Elevator Company for a total of $93,474.36 through the state contract program administered by the Pennsylvania Bureau of Procurement. Contract number 4400024365. Parent contract 4400023882. The project includes the replacement of doors, tracks, locks, hangers, and the installation of a new hydro-enhanced control processing board.
Deputy Mayor makes a motion to approve contracts for 2 elevator repair projects with Otis Elevator Company for a total of $93,474.36. I will second that motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries.
And I make the motion that Borough Council approve a contract with Smith, Elliott, Kearns & Company, LLC, for the independent auditing services to complete the borough's year-end financial statements and preparation of the borough's annual comprehensive financial report. The contract is for an initial 3-year term for the fiscal years 2025 through 2027, with the option to renew for 2 additional years, fiscal years 2028 and 2029.
Deputy Mayor makes a motion to approve a contract with Smith, Elliott, Kearns & Company, LLC, for independent auditing services to complete the borough's year-end financial statements in preparation of the borough's annual comprehensive financial report. I'll second that motion. Is there any discussion?
I'll just say that they were here last week and they provided that report, and if you want to watch that video, you can learn all about their work for us.
Thanks. Anything further? I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries.
And that completes my report.
Thank you. The RCP.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 2 items. First, I move that Council appoint Mr. Martin Seifering to a partial term on the Carlisle Borough Planning Commission. The term will become effective immediately and shall expire February 28th, 2029.
Councilor Mellon makes a motion to appoint Mr. Seifering to the Planning Commission. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Perry. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries.
And next, I move that council appoint Mr. Alvin Blitz to a partial term on the Pension Advisory Commission. The term will be effective immediately and shall expire March 31st, 2029. And I'll say first, I'm grateful to both of these gentlemen for stepping up, but particularly to Mr. Blitz, because this has been vacant for over a year now, and I really appreciate him stepping up. And we count on so many of you to help us fill the vacancies on our boards and commissions. We have a few more vacancies right now. I've got a few in the works, but we're going to have more vacancies next year. So if you've ever wanted to volunteer for a board or commission, just take a look at our website, and we'd love to have you.
Thank you. Councilor Mellon makes a motion to appoint Mr. Blitz to the Pension Advisory Commission. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Perry. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries.
And that completes my report.
Thank you. Public Works.
Thank you, Mayor Schultz. I have two items this evening. First, I move that Borough Council award the bids for the purchase of the chemicals used at the Carlisle water and wastewater treatment plants, for which the lowest responsive bidders are outlined in the bid tabulation. The annual contract term shall be from January 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2026.
Councilor Stubbe makes a motion to award the bids for the purchase of chemicals used at the Carlisle water and wastewater treatment plants. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Shiles. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries.
And next, I move that Borough Council adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor and the borough manager as signature authority for the reimbursement and maintenance agreement with PennDOT for the construction of two new ADA curb ramps at the intersection of East High Street and Spruce Street as part of the PennDOT roadway resurfacing project on East High Street, SR 0074, subject to the satisfactory review and approval of the borough solicitor.
Councilor Stubbe makes a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor and borough manager as signature authority for the reimbursement and maintenance agreement with PennDOT for the construction of two new ADA curb ramps. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Shiles. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries.
And that concludes the Public Works Committee report.
Thank you. Sustainable Community and Economic Planning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 5 items on my agenda tonight. The first is that Borough Council may approve the requested waivers from Chapter 226, Subdivision and Land Development, Article 3, Section 226-10E, and Article 4, Section 226-22B.7, and approve the minor subdivision plan for Dickinson College. The plan located at 212 through 240 West High Street in the INS Institutional Zoning District, subject to the applicant's acceptance and satisfactory resolution of the conditions imposed by staff.
Councilor Shiles makes a motion to approve the requested waivers and approve the minor subdivision plan for Dickinson College located at 212 to 240 West High Street, subject to the applicant's acceptance and satisfactory resolution of the conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by the Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries.
The second item on my agenda tonight is that Borough Council may approve the requested waivers from Chapter 226 Subdivision and Land Development, Article 3, Section 226-10E, and Article 4, Section 226-17, and approve the final land development plan, proposed pilot line building research and innovation center and building expansion, and Plant 5 building expansion plan located at 1285 Rittner Highway, more specifically identified with parcel ID number 49-08-0579-004 and 49-08-057-006 in the I-1 General Industrial Zoning District, subject to the applicant's acceptance and satisfactory resolution of the conditions imposed by staff.
Councilor Shiles makes a motion to approve requested waivers and approve the final land development plan for the proposed pilot line building research and innovation center building expansion and Plant 5 building expansion at 1285 Rittner Highway. subject to the applicant's acceptance and satisfactory resolution of conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by the Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? I say it's always exciting when industry is expanding in the borough, so glad to see that. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries.
The third item on my agenda for tonight is that Borough Council may approve a time extension request by Friedrich Siebert and Associates, Inc. on behalf of Community Cares owners of the property at 230 Spring Garden Street, or South Spring Garden Street, for satisfying the conditions of the plan approval on the final land development plan for Community Cares as per Section 226-21A, Part 3. Of the Borough Subdivision and Land Development Ordinances. The request is for an additional 60 days, and the new deadline shall be January 13th, 2026.
Councilor Shiles makes a motion to approve time extension request by FSA on behalf of Community Cares. The request for additional 60 days with the new deadline January 13th, 2026. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by the Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries.
Item 4 on my agenda for tonight is that Borough Council may adopt a resolution calling on the legislature of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to pass legislation to allow for the creation of community energy programs in Pennsylvania.
Councilor Shiles makes a motion to adopt a resolution calling on the legislature of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to pass legislation to allow for the creation of community energy programs in Pennsylvania. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by the Deputy Mayor. Any discussion?
Yeah, I've got a little bit I want to sort of say about this. So thank you to Eric and Representative Gleim for speaking up about this. We have 2 solar resolutions tonight. Both are aimed at addressing the availability and cost of renewable electricity, particularly to those who have unsuitable roofs for photovoltaics, renters, and also those who can't afford to install an entire system on their roof. The first resolution is encouraging the State Assembly to pass legislation for community solar. Community solar would allow community members to subscribe to a local solar project where they would receive credits on their electricity bill for the power share for the power share of their project generates. For the share, the power from their share of the project that it generates. Worded that funny. The fact that we as a state still do not allow community solar is very substandard. We are one of only 5 states that does not have a single community solar project in our entire Commonwealth, and most of the states in the surrounding region have passed legislation around this. The second resolution is similar but takes a slightly different approach. It is nonetheless compatible with they're nonetheless compatible with each other. It's asking the borough to take part in the Pennsylvania Electricity Plan Collaborative. This collaborative will seek to aggregate willing residents across multiple Pennsylvania boroughs and townships to bulk purchase renewable electricity. Additionally, we are hoping to achieve several goals by joining this collaborative, such as the control of skyrocketing electricity costs, to protect consumers from predatory sales practices, and begin the process of building out local Tier 1 renewable energy generation. We are hoping to work with participants in the aggregation to also encourage energy efficiency and to reduce annual peak demand for electricity.
Thank you, Councilor Shiles. Any other discussion? Okay, there was a motion and a second. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries.
My 5th item on the agenda for tonight is that Borough Council may adopt the resolution authorizing the Borough Council of Carlisle to participate in the Pennsylvania Electricity Plan Collaborative.
Councilor Shiles makes a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the borough to participate in the Pennsylvania Electricity Plan Collaborative. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by the Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. And the motion carries. That concludes your report, right?
That concludes my report
Got
for
it.
tonight. Thank you.
Okay. All right. That brings us to reports from council members and staff. And we'll, just to get this formally before us, I'll have, if anybody would like to make a motion on this item. Is there anybody who would like to make a motion? Right.
I'll make the motion that Borough Council adopt the Carlisle Community Trust and Local Autonomy Ordinance. That's all I have to say.
That works. It's item 1 under reports from council members and staff.
Oh, you're right. Borough Council. I make the motion that Borough Council can enact an ordinance amending the code of the Borough of Carlisle to uphold the community trust, ensure the efficient use of borough resources for local priorities, and affirm the borough's home rule authority in accordance with the borough charter and strategic plan.
Okay. Deputy Mayor makes a motion to enact an ordinance amending the code of the Borough of Carlisle to uphold the community trust, ensure the efficient use of borough resources for local priorities, and affirm the borough's home rule authority in accordance with the borough charter and strategic plan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Shiles. And we'll just go right to public comment on this. I know a number of you, because if you left after the proclamation, you're probably here for this one. So if you hadn't left, I'm sorry. Attorney Matei, come on up.
Thank you. And I believe it's Ms. Millen. You started with a discussion of from government inaction. I think that should be called government inaction. Oh, that was supposed to get a laugh. Sorry. All right. I am here. My name is Mark Matea, and I live at 726 West Lowther Street. And I'm here to talk about the borough services and just a few points. And I understand there are many of us, so I will keep it brief. In Pennsylvania, a person who is needing AFDC, aid to family with dependent children, person who's not a citizen of the United States, and I'm making comparison, I understand it's different, but a person who's not a citizen or here as a legal alien resident, they don't qualify, and they are not permitted to get the AFDC services. And what you're proposing is to not use that standard. I'm not suggesting that that's the perfect standard or that's the one that I think we should use, but we're suggesting we're not going to use any standard. And I'm asking, why would we do that? I'll continue. If we have an alien who is an illegal alien who desires to become a naturalized citizen, we support that. And persons here in our borough who are receiving whatever services it is that we need, if you're a citizen, you receive those. If you're an alien who has the right to be here, you may receive those. But if you want to become a naturalized citizen, I want to be an American. I think that's what I want to do. There's this process that you go through. It's called naturalization. And if you've ever looked at that, there's 10 steps to naturalization. And the 8th and 9th step involves taking an oath to the Constitution, an oath to abide by the laws. And an alien not born here who becomes a naturalized citizen says, I'm going to do that. I'm going to choose to do that, to make that choice. And, that's a pretty big deal. But if we adhere to paragraph 1, section 4, that talks about equal access, we're saying we don't care. We don't care if you're loyal to the United States. We don't care if you're going to swear an oath to the United States. You can have our services. And you know what? I'm thinking, why would we do that? And and what's the harm of asking about the citizenship status? I've had to fill out lots of forms in my life where that was part of the form. Are you a citizen? Yeah. If we create a situation where illegal aliens can get services, I did a little research on this. In Cumberland County, we have 33 municipalities. 11 boroughs and 22 townships. And none of them have sanctuary type language such as what we have here in front of us today, which, by the way, I hope this board will table. But if an illegal alien is coming to Cumberland County and there are 33 municipalities, which one do you think they'll go to? Finally, Article 6, Clause 2 of the Constitution says that federal law will take precedence over state law. And in your website, all of you, first thing on your website is, I swear to uphold the Constitution and the laws of the United States and of this state. And thank you for that. By the way, thank you for your service. Keith, this reminded me tonight why I don't do municipal work. Staying out late. 8 U.S.C. 1373, part of the statutes of our federal statutes, say that it's prohibited for state laws or local laws to stop and restrict communication with DHS, Department of Homeland Security. The federal law takes precedence. If you want to, and the Constitution, and again, these folks who want to become naturalized citizens, they make that point. I'm going to do that. If you want to uphold the Constitution, I'm asking you to table this. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else? Anybody else like to speak on this item? Come on up, James.
It's hot in here. You guys are used to seeing me do the Senator Fetterman look with a hoodie and a pair of shorts. I had to put jeans on tonight. I'll approach you guys. You guys have it in digits. And before I do that, James Evans, again, 157 B Street for the record. I have an email exchange with the mayor and the council. I did get a response from Mayor Schultz, Councilor Stubbe, and Councilor Perry. I think I forgot to print yours off, Councilor Perry. But you guys have it in digits, and I'd like to enter it for the record. So,
if you want to just pass it up there to Sam, and then Sam, or you just want it on the record? Yeah, to Patricia's fine. Yep.
And I can send the digits as well.
Okay.
And if anybody can't hear me, I'll do my command voice. So, there's a lot of questions that I have, and there's probably more than I emailed, and I won't go over each one. But I think we have to take a step back, and as some of the old Army guys I used to work with, we have to pump the brakes. We have to take the time to look at this and figure out what the cost is to the borough through potential lawsuits, potential loss of grants. We're a borough that has over 19% poverty rate. People are already complaining about taxes. If we enact something that we don't pump the brakes on, have community involvement to take a look at this policy that is potentially being voted on, and I'll go back and say I think this should be tabled and taken a deeper look at. I'm a strict constitutionalist, and I support what was stated about the Constitution, not only at the national level, but at the Commonwealth. And we need to pump the brakes, take a look, get more community involvement. I know this started in April timeframe and has been looked at, and it's been out there for the public to view, but I don't think a lot of people know exactly what this means. And I think, like a lot of the other items that we discuss in the borough, like the potential for us to bring trash and recycling in-house, that's actually started at the same time, but we're still collecting data on that type of information to ensure that we're doing our due diligence as a borough and as elected representatives, that it doesn't cost the borough, that it benefits the borough. So I think what we need to do is take emotion out of this issue. We also need to take ideology out of this issue. As Councilor Mellon stated, we need to get past this left, right, or whatever you want to call it. We need to come together, look at this. And my proposal, and one of the things I stated, was that we need to appoint a citizen board to come in and look at this issue, war game it. And for those who don't know what war gaming is, that term, we need to scrutinize the policy, ensure that it's not going to affect us, not only at the government level, but the wider borough. We need to take a pause, and that's why I'm adamant that we should table this item for right now until there's further discussion on this issue. I'll tell a real quick story, and some of you guys may know that I know there's some older folks in the crowd, but back in the 80s, and I don't know if it's urban legend, but there's a point to it. If you guys are familiar with the railroad bridge over at Orange Street between Newville Road and High Street, where Rittner starts, there was a truck that got stuck under that underpass. We had a lot of people that are very knowledgeable looking at that truck being stuck, and they didn't know how to get under it or get it out from under the underpass. And they were like, well, we can't cut it because of the material that was inside. Well, it took all these people with big brain power looking at it. We don't know how to do it. It was a small child standing there that said, let the air out of the tires. So the moral or the point of that is, that's why I'm saying we need to pump the brakes, because as much as we think we know what we're doing, there's other views within this borough that need to be looked at and considered, so it don't bite us in the rear end in the end. And go back and look at this policy, vet it, hammer it, war game it, and then come back. And if it needs to go for a vote, then so be it. But then we can say we did extreme due diligence, and we can represent that to the citizens and the larger community that we're not getting affected or bit in the butt or the rear end, and it's not going to cost us in a community that has 19% poverty, So that's why I stand here, because we need to come together and put our differences to the side and do the right thing. And if through that we decide to scrap this and put something else up, then that's what we need to do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, Margaret Froelich, 238 West Pomfret Street. They taught me in debate class to always start by ceding some point of merit in a varying viewpoint, so I'll do that. There is reason in our current context to be cautious. There is a heightened level of scrutiny, but we are not alone in navigating it. I believe the best way to exercise caution is by adopting this ordinance, which has been written with caution and care and will stand up to scrutiny. According to the American Immigration Council, police chiefs have reported that such policies as this ordinance would enact build trust and make our community safer. That is a bipartisan council, by the way. This is supported by public safety data. In its mid-year 2025 report, the American Immigration Council submitted a formal statement to the House Oversight Committee, quote, affirming the constitutional basis for local discretion and the importance of preserving public trust in immigrant communities. End of quote. This ordinance is in keeping with our community's values and stays within extant legal parameters. I am in favor of the adoption of this ordinance and are acting according to our collective conscience, which includes building and maintaining trust with all members in our community and fostering belonging. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name's Andrew Shaw. I'm not a resident of the borough. I actually live in North Milton Township on Old Coach Lane. But I do appreciate the opportunity just to share some of my thoughts, and I thank you in advance for your attentiveness. I'm an attorney as well, so sorry you're getting a lot of attorneys tonight, I guess. But my office is just outside the borough. In fact, I'm on Trindle Road. Nobody knows the difference where the borough ends and where South Milton begins, so I feel like I'm part of the borough almost, okay? But the reality is I have a lot of clients that reside in the borough, both individuals. I represent businesses that also are in the borough. And so I want to share a couple, just really 2 points. One is from that perspective. First of all, in representing businesses, there are concerns that what we see in other cities that have passed similar ordinances. I took a class in college, statistics, probably many of you did too. One of the books I had to read was How to Lie with Statistics. And we can make a statistic say anything that we want. Okay. The reality is when we look with our own eyes at what we have seen results in other cities, and we can name city after city, we see increased crime. That's just a reality. So, you know, when I think about, you can go all the way to the extreme in Kansas City, where the crime became so bad that literally the supermarkets shut down and the city formed its own public run grocery store. The result, it was still defaced so bad that the city gave up. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen in the borough of Carlisle, but we are seeing results throughout the country of increased crime. Why does that matter for me as an attorney for clients that own businesses? Because they're concerned about their businesses being broken into or burglarized. So that is a very legitimate concern. It's a concern for individual clients of mine that reside in the borough as well, of increased safety. I would ask that the borough table the vote for tonight to further study safety concerns and impacts that this ordinance would create. The second point that I wanted to make is more related personally and not professionally. I'm on the board of a local nonprofit organization here in the borough. I am not speaking in any official capacity, so I am not going to even say the name of the organization, but it is a nonprofit 501c3 that serves to meet the underprivileged where they are, to give them, to meet their needs, to help transition them from homelessness into housing, or to prevent them from going into homelessness. Some of the things that they provide are beds, lamps, tables. I was at a meeting on Monday night, the board meeting, or Tuesday, I'm sorry. And there was a report about how they were giving a lamp to a family because the only light they had in the house was the TV glow. We all know the needs and how the poverty level that some people are living in. This organization is 6 weeks behind in meeting requested needs because the need is so great and their resources are so bare. And this is not the only organization that struggles with these needs. If we attract more individuals that will create more need and strain on the system, the organizations that are already providing these needs will be even further behind, and those that are here now in need will be pushed to the side even greater. Because of that great need that we have, I again ask the board to table the vote for tonight to further consider these kinds of needs and the impact that this ordinance will create. Thank you for your time.
Hi, good evening. My name is Devin Spiva. I live at 106 Southwest Street. I'm here today to speak in support of the ordinance and to thank the council for moving forward on the step to enact the ordinance. First, I want to say no one chooses where they're born. No one chooses where they're a citizen of. It's not a decision that any child gets to make. People do choose where they get to come to live and pursue their livelihood. And I do agree with some of the things that have been said. We need to step back and take out the emotion from some of these things. But there is part of it that we aren't considering. There is part that at the end of the day, everyone who lives within the borough is a person. They are entitled to the services offered by the borough. When we call 911, the first question is, what's your emergency? It's not what's your immigration status. When police officers respond to, for instance, last year, I was in a car accident. And when the police officers responded, it was, are you hurt? How can we help you? What happened? It was not, before we assist you, what is your immigration status? I was not born in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I was born in Savannah, Georgia. I lived there, and I chose to come here for law school. Many people choose to come here. The difference between the people who choose to come here that are not from the state of Georgia, maybe they're from the country of Georgia. The only difference is that one of us was born in America. And the naturalization process is one that takes many years. And people are being interrupted on their ways to court. Now I also want to step back again and consider what this ordinance is. This ordinance is not a wholesale change in the law. It's codification of the policies enacted by the borough already and ensuring that our police officers are also protected, because our police officers are trained. They take a duty to protect and serve. People who are currently being hired for immigration enforcement lack the same training. They lack the same knowledge of the borough in which they purport to serve. And it's not saying that this ordinance is going to obstruct DHS. It's just not going to allow them to commandeer our officers and go beyond the scope of powers that are offered to the federal government. In that way, this ordinance falls directly in line with the Constitution and the separation of powers. We value our system of federalism, so we cannot strip away the powers of our home rule charter. We cannot strip away the powers of our state simply because we don't believe more people should be living here. After every summer, hundreds of people come to Carlisle anyway. Traffic increases, but they're celebrated because they're coming for college or they're coming for law school. Services are strained by that as well. And they don't always become residents of Carlisle, but we celebrate them because what they bring is different perspectives. What they bring is greater involvement in the community, and they help form what our community is. So too do people who immigrate here, whether they have a piece of paper that defines them as legal. And they may be in the process of it, and they shouldn't be obstructed or impeded simply because they can be asked if they're stopped in traffic, or if they look suspicious walking down the street, or if someone misidentifies them as a perpetrator of a crime. That shouldn't result in deportation or detention by people who are not trained to handle situations or de-escalate situations. So again, I want to thank the council, and I want to once again reiterate that even though there may be some loud voices here today that speak out against this, last Tuesday we made our voices heard as to what types of policies and what type of borough we want to live in. And it is not by going through the path of making the residents of the borough less safe, regardless of what their status is as a citizen or as an immigrant. And so I want to once again thank you and ask that we pass this ordinance. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Andrea Shaw. I actually reside in North Middleton Township on Old Coach Lane. You heard from my husband earlier. I'm also an attorney working at the same law practice that is just outside this borough. I'm going to take a little bit different perspective than my husband, though. But thank you so much for your time and listening to our concerns tonight regarding this ordinance. I'm aware that Mayor Schultz has claimed that this ordinance is constitutionally sound and that it is actually the federal government that is violating the Constitution. The mayor's basis for this claim is that the 10th Amendment is based on the 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, providing, and this is what Mayor Schultz stated, that the borough's basis for this ordinance, and under the idea that, quote, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people, end quote. The fundamental problem with the mayor's argument is that the Constitution does in fact delegate authority to the United States when it comes to naturalization and immigration. I'll refer you to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 of the Constitution. Also, the U.S. Supreme Court has recognized for at least 100 years that the President and Congress has authority over immigration. I'll refer to you to several U.S. Supreme Court cases: United States versus Arizona from 2012, Harris versus Shaughnessy from 1952, Chicago and Southern Airlines versus Waterman SS Corp. 1948, and Hines versus Davidowitz in 1941. Further, the mayor continues to argue that the federal government does not have the right to force the borough to act, and that this, quote, ordinance is an assertion of our rights under the 10th Amendment, end quote. That statement is misleading, with all due respect to Mayor Schultz. First and foremost, this ordinance does more than just reaffirm that the federal government does not have the right to force the borough to act. If you look at the sections of this ordinance, specifically Section 5, you will see that the ordinance goes much further. It actually forces the borough to obstruct the federal government's attempt to enforce national immigration laws. And that is their power to do that. We need to set the record straight that this ordinance does not merely formalize the borough's rights under the Constitution, but it is an attempt to actively obstruct it. This is a big difference and one that must be clearly understood before this council takes a vote on this ordinance. For that reason, I ask that you table this, take a look at those very important constitutional issues, and consider that before you take a vote. Thank you for your time.
Okay, that's a hard act to.
Just that.
There's a button on the back.
It's when people move the mic, unfortunately. I'm sorry. No, you're okay.
It is the short people.
You're good now. It's okay.
Okay. My name is Giselle Lochner. I live at 153 C Street here in Carlisle in the Borough. I just have some questions. Have you looked at the impacts of similar policies enacted in other communities?
This is an opportunity for public comment. So provide your
all
comment.
right. Well,
Go ahead.
it's a comment then. Okay, do you think the enactment of this ordinance will have any negative effects or impact on borough community resources? I heard Ms. Mellon talk about, our resources and how we don't even have enough for our residents. And also, housing is a big issue. I have a friend who's on the housing list for HUD, and he's disabled, and he's been on it for years now, and he's like number 300 and I don't even know what. And I'm just wondering how it's going to impact that. And also, will our taxes increase because of this? Will we lose federal funding because of this? Will we have lawsuits because of this? Why now? Why now? And I'm asking you to please table this ordinance so it can be looked into a lot further. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Eric Smith again, 121 Southeast Street. I'm glad we have a lot of discussion and attention to this issue that has been discussed for quite a while now in front of the borough. I want to note first that, I'm glad we have people sharing their legal expertise. As private citizens here, the borough also has their own attorney and has used their expertise that this attorney is paid to look after the best interests of the borough as their highest priority. That is their job. They've looked through this, and they have also brought in outside observers specifically, at least from what I understand, to look over it and ensure it. Now, I understand there's a lot of fuzziness when you're looking at the big picture law of the land constitutional issues, and so that's why I think it's worth taking your time to read through this and maybe underline or emphasize each time it says unless or except, because this ordinance is very careful to not conflict with and not interfere with the operations of federal officials or federal laws. This is there are a lot of qualifiers in here that are specifically there because we don't want to overstep what we are allowed to do. Now, beyond that, the main thing I want to speak to is the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty being expressed. And I, as somebody who has been here since the day this was introduced, I have to agree there's a lot of uncertainty. I don't know if passing this will make Washington, D.C. cast their eye on Little Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I don't know if it will affect grant funding or if this would make a difference for the people that it aims to protect, or if any of the arguments against it would hold up in court, although we have done our best to safeguard against that by consulting our legal counsel. However, what I do know is that people have been taken to ICE processing and detention facilities, as has been discussed and reported here previously, because they were contacted about an immigrant in Carlisle. Measures in this are specifically trying to avoid some circumstances that have already taken place. And we also know what is happening across the country. We know that Yang Fang-ge died on August 5th in Moshannon Valley Processing Facility, the closest ICE detention facility from here. It was reported at the time that his death was a suicide. After months of Freedom of Information Request acts and lawsuits, we have learned that his hands were tied behind his back when he was found hanging. That is all we know after extreme effort and expense from his family about what is happening inside these facilities. And so, yeah, there's scary stuff involved in this. And if I was 100% sure that this would mean we wouldn't have access to funding that we need to function as a borough, then yeah, I would have a lot more qualms about it. But there is no clarity on that. What we do have clarity on is that our neighbors, who are also residents, who also pay taxes, and who are a part of this borough, are in danger and have already been targeted. This would not prevent that. This would not prevent people from being taken by federal officials. This would add a layer of not even protection, but prevent an additional risk to them by having our borough staff, who are not immigration officials, essentially, or in the case of Section 5, Part 4, literally be deputized as immigration officials. That is not their job. The text of this resolution is very careful and clear about avoiding federal and state restrictions on what we can and can't do. But it is also essentially here to say our borough police, our borough emergency services, our borough staff should be doing their jobs, not the work of the DHS. Thank you.
Hi, Jeff Engelhardt, 218 Southwest Street. I hadn't planned on saying anything. I didn't prepare anything, but when I heard folks saying that this should be further scrutinized, I just wanted to point out that so I've been coming for the last 7-8 months as we've been working through this, and as it's been scrutinized. And to me, it's important to note that the vast majority of members of the Carlisle community who have come up here have talked about their concern for their neighbors and how they want to protect their neighbors. And a lot of the concerns raised here have been raised before, and it's important to raise them again if people still have them. But I also want to just emphasize that I've been impressed with the community that we have here and how Carlisle takes care of one another. The citizens who have been coming for the vast majority of the time that we've been doing this have been talking about how they care about our neighbors no matter their citizenship status, and acknowledging that many of the people who have been caught up in this are on the legal route to getting citizenship here. And that for the most part, I've been moved by the values that people have shown in coming to these meetings and emphasizing that we'd rather support each other and take care of each other than try to make money for the people who benefit off of private prisons or private detention centers. And for that reason, and with that feeling from the people I've seen coming to these, I support this ordinance. Thanks.
Sheila Jane Menon, 55 Wilson Street. I want to direct our attention back to Section 5, Item 2, which the previous speaker directed us to. Borough resources shall not be used to support or assist in federal operations conducted for the purpose of civil immigration enforcement, except in response to an imminent and significant threat to life or public safety, or when required by binding order of a court of competent jurisdiction, or to execute a judicial warrant. What we are seeing across the country is the detainment of individuals, regardless of status, without imminent and significant threat to life or public safety, without binding order of a court, without a judicial warrant. The latest report, and yes, statistics can be made up to mean a lot of things, but at some point, we also trust institutions who are in place to serve as watchguards, who tell us that in recent months, we have a total of 170 U.S. citizens who have been detained by ICE. That's a selfish reason to vote for this ordinance. That we are worried that someone like me, who looks like me, who's a naturalized citizen, is more likely than some other folks in this room to be pulled aside and assumed to not be here legally. We're witnessing this happen across the country. Mothers, children, fathers, families. Their loved ones caught up by ICE are to them, regardless of citizenship, what our loved ones are to us. And if we don't want our dads and moms and aunts and uncles and toddlers yanked out of cars without warrants, yanked out of courts by masked men without IDs, who the FBI is currently telling us, by the way, the FBI, under the Trump administration, is now warning us that masked people, not with ICE, are posing as ICE and kidnapping folks. This is the reality that we're living in. And in this small corner of our state, this ordinance suggests that we will follow federal law, but we will not go above and beyond when there isn't the proper paperwork, the legal standing, and an imminent threat to life or public safety to upend people's lives with no evidence, with no protocols, with no identifications. Why are we saying we won't do this? We are saying we won't do this because we as a borough are affirming some basic values around human dignity, around civility, around community and care. Thank you.
Hi. My name is Heather Leatherman. I live at 635 Highland Avenue. Thanks for letting us speak tonight. I will say that I do apologize that this is the first time that I'm speaking and coming to one of these on this issue. I, like many people that are here tonight, shamefully, or maybe just because we were living our lives, did not know this was going on. And I can tell you that I heard about it from my optometrist. And as soon as it was mentioned to me, I thought, that seems strange that the Borough of Carlisle would be taking that on. So I went home, I looked it up, I read the ordinance, and I thought, that seems strange. I think most of us as citizens who are living our lives and paying taxes and going around, we're not out to get anyone. We're not actually looking to harm people who don't have citizenship or illegal immigrants or other people, but we're just assuming that our local government is focusing on local issues like making sure that we have paved streets and collecting our garbage and policing our streets and providing the services that we pay taxes to receive. So none of us are here tonight because we don't like other people or because we're hateful or because we think that some of these things that happen to people are good things. But what we're wanting is for our local borough council, for our local government to stay local and not jump into what I consider to be national politics. An ordinance like this, to me, it was even been stated by some people tonight, it's not saying we're going to break any federal laws or we're going to do anything like that. It's basically kind of just saying, hey, here's where we stand politically and we don't like ICE and we think that what you're doing is wrong. You may think that, but I don't think we need an ordinance as the Borough of Carlisle to actually make that a policy of the Borough of Carlisle. And I am, like other citizens here, concerned. I'm not a lawyer. I don't go to law school. But I will say that I think it's very evident from things that are happening that if you don't want to become part of national politics, if you do want the borough to take care of the residents that are in this borough, then you don't want to do something like this that is basically going to take on an adversarial attitude towards our federal government. So as a citizen, as somebody who lives here, I ask you to please table this. I know you've been talking about it for months, and I apologize for not being here and having input before this. But I'm asking you now, standing here, that you table this or consider the ways that it might actually harm the residents of Carlisle. We can be kind to the people that live here no matter what their status is. We can reach out as a community and care for those people without making an ordinance that is going to make us be part of a political scene that we don't want to be part of. Right? We want to be residents of Carlisle. This is a wonderful community. I purposely bought property to move into this borough because I love the city of Carlisle and I love the people in it. So I think that we as citizens are just asking that you don't take this on. You don't have to. It's not something that we need. And so I'm just asking you that you table this tonight. Thank you.
Well, hi there, folks. My name is Chris Dempsey. I'm at 221 Arch Street, and I don't have much experience public speaking, and one of the times I did was at Best Man speech at my brother's wedding, and it went for 21 minutes. So we don't want that today. So in order to avoid that, I hope you'll forgive me that I have some hastily prepared comments, so please don't take them as, lack of interest or eye contact for that thing. So I stand up here to request that you all would consider tabling this vote tonight. Frankly, I just heard about it earlier today and was kind of shocked by it. I did some quick research, tried to gather some info, and I appreciate what the former lady said up here. I know that's our job to stay informed, but yeah, so I just found out, I was like, whoa, this is big. It's a lot to take in. So I was trying to understand it, trying to come to it, and I just had some concerns. So one thing I did really appreciate it, and Mayor, I'm not sure if it was you who put together the FAQ or something like that, but saw a reference to the 10th Amendment, which I really appreciate. I think that's a forgotten amendment, and so I was happy to see that. Because I'm in general in favor of local control. But it seems to me that the job of the government, whether it's federal, state, or local, is fundamentally to protect and support its own citizens, not non-citizens. This simple fact seems like something that may get missed by high-talking elites, but a young child who knows to let the airs out of the tire of a truck could point out to you. Now, basic economics tells us that resources are scarce and can't be spread everywhere. So that means a decision one way means that something else can't be done. If borough resources are prioritized to non-citizens, then someone will suffer, and that inevitably will be citizens who live here and have deep roots here. I don't think that's right. And loving my own people and my own town does not mean that I hate anyone else from anywhere else. It just means that I have my loves and duties ordered in a certain way. Now, I'm concerned that if we tell individuals who have broken the law that they are welcome to come here and receive safe harbor, and that we'll harbor them from the consequences of their action. And if we give them potentially financial assistance or borough resources, that will then attract more and more illegal immigrants who are not from our community, don't share our culture, and in many cases, not even our language. And that will negatively affect everyone else who depend on our community strength and resources. I'm in the world actually of helping people in town secure housing, and I can tell you that we have a housing crisis. Buying and especially renting is so expensive due to market forces and just the economy in general, especially demand. The ordinance does not appear to look out for our struggling citizens who live here, who have lived here for generations, but rather seems likely to attract hundreds of others and put a real strain on our housing, which is already stretched very thin, our school system, and really everything else. That will necessarily hurt our own residents. Now, to be clear, individuals may choose to help anyone, including illegal immigrants, as they feel called. Personally, I'm a Christian. I think it's very important to help people who are in need. But it's important to note that that is in our individual capacities as individuals, not the role of the government. As council members, you are stewards of resources that don't belong to you. You're not acting when you vote on this in your individual capacity as private citizens. Please consider the needs of our people, our citizens who haven't broken any laws, and table this vote. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. My name is Corey Gelbaugh. I live at 827 Wellington Drive, and I lived here my whole life in the borough. I am I was born here. My wife was born here. My 4 kids were born here. And I'm the board president of a local Christian school with over 100 children under my supervision. And these are the innocent citizens that you have taken a vow to protect. And I would just like to call you to account to consider whether this is in their best interest. Those children who are citizens of this country, who live in your borough, whether enacting this ordinance is in their best interest or is it in the best interest of people who are not citizens, who you have not taken an oath to protect. I'll say also that as a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ, I'd like to call you to account to do your duty under God, that you have been given to uphold justice and the law of the land. And I would recommend that you table the ordinance until you can for sure say that you can for sure stand up to that critique, whether you can stand before God someday and say this was righteous and just. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tina Ziegler. I live at 120 East Lowther Street. I'm just going to talk about a couple of people that I've come in contact with throughout this year. An 18-year-old young man was taken from in front of his house in Harrisburg sometime around April of this year. He was brought here. Undocumented as a child at 14 and has since made Central Pennsylvania his home, graduating high school and starting a job, even signing a lease to an apartment with his girlfriend. A father was abducted from outside his sister's home in Carlisle while picking up his 2 young children, also sometime in April of this year. He came to this country seeking asylum, doing it the right way. Both were up for bond hearings in May. We were fortunate that funds were able to be raised for our neighbor in Carlisle, and he was granted bond. The young man in Harrisburg was not so lucky. He could not secure stable representation, and his case kept getting continued. Finally, he was able to get a hearing set for July 15th. On July 8th, however, the administration issued a memo that anyone who came to this country undocumented would not be eligible for bond. Regardless of the fact that this young man has done nothing but live a good and honest life here, because he was brought here as a child without paperwork, against his will as a child without paperwork, the judge denied him bond. He ended up choosing to self-deport in August. I've heard a lot through this process that change is slow, that we need to stop and we need to look at things more. Please hear me when I say we don't have time to govern and enact laws in the same manners that we did a year ago. We are living in an increasingly volatile landscape, and the time was yesterday for bold action. And so I really urge you to please join the growing number of municipalities across the Commonwealth who are adopting ordinances like these. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Wagner, 267 West Ridge Street. Welcome to all of you who came out of the woodwork tonight. Thanks. Hoping there is a vote tonight. Did not know we had so many economists and attorneys and business lawyers who I assume are here because they're being paid to represent their clients and are, not legal residents of this borough. Thank you for being here, though. Thank you. So let me tell you about myself. I am a pastor of 10 years. I have studied religion. I have studied theology. I have studied the Hebrew and Christian Bible in their original languages. And let's get the churchy stuff out of the way. If you want to stand before God as a called minister of the Church of Christ and by his authority, I forgive you all your sins. You may stand before God and he may judge you rather than us. And by Christ's authority, you are forgiven. Grace and all that stuff. Anyway, as a pastor and those that are calling to light their Christian faith, which I believe the Bible has something to do with that, let me turn you to the Gospel of Luke, in which a lawyer wants to ask Jesus what the greatest commandment of all is. And Jesus puts it simply, the greatest command is this one thing, that you love God with all you got. And the second is that you love your neighbor as yourself. And I'm not hearing a single thing about neighbor. I'm only hearing of the legality of citizenship. Take a second for that, dear Christians baptized in the name of Christ. So let me summarize. The lawyer wants to justify himself as to what Jesus means and absolve himself of any potential sin he may run into by saying, well, my neighbor is this or my neighbor is that. And Jesus tells a short story about a man who was brutalized and left for dead along the highway. 3 men go by. 2 just let him lie there, and 1 props him up, washes his wounds, takes him to an inn, and spends money to care for him. And Jesus says, which one is the neighbor? Which one is the good neighbor? Which one is being neighborly? And the lawyer, of course, is right. Well, the one who helped. So, I ask you, dear Christians that are in the room, and dear Borough Council, we can make this decision tonight as we have been doing this for a long time now. I ask you not just as a matter of legal and legality matters, but as moral matters, since no one has really mentioned that much at all tonight. I ask you to pass this ordinance tonight. We have had our time to deliberate, and to mention the elephants in the room, it's just us debating who we and they are. We are saying, to justify ourselves, who our neighbors are. The mark of a good neighbor is one who helps, is one who shows up. That's not the mark of a citizen. Citizenship is something else entirely. So I ask you, as a moral matter, as a matter of faith, as a matter of humanity, to see our neighbors as humans, to see our neighbors as people who want to do good, who want to live good lives, who you assume they broke the law because they're here, but let's face it, it's this, right? Because there is no mark of citizenship of the United States of America. There is no defining facial feature, but it is, according to what's going on here, a matter of ethnicity and citizen and origin of nationality. Yes, there are paths to citizenship, but yes, we can help. I ask you to pass this ordinance tonight, not just a matter of legality, but as a matter of faith and morality. Thank you.
Hi, I became aware of this a few months ago, and I have lived in, I live at 103 East Ridge Street in Carlisle. I've been a member of Cumberland County all my life, and I've lived in Carlisle since 1988. I've raised my 3 children here. One child still lives here. I have a granddaughter. I'm very vested in our community. I love our community. Okay, I don't see the issues. I work at the Carlisle Family YMCA for the past 25 years. I've worked at Giant. I work at Phase. I'm very tuned into the community, and I think we have an incredible community. And I just want to point out, I think there was something that was formed, which was great, where you had a committee so that if there was any discrimination going on, they could bring it to the community's, to the council's awareness. And if I could be wrong about this, but I think it was in existence for a couple years, and I don't think you ever really had any racial comments or problems or discrimination brought forward to the council, okay, which is great. That's wonderful. It means that we are neighborly and we care about one another. I'm a little puzzled as to the timing of why you feel a need to do this, but at the very least, you could table it since I don't know what the rush is. We can hear from more citizens. In the past, I saw the first meeting where this was introduced. There weren't very many people here, but people are finding out about it. We care, we want to come forward, and we just want what's best for a community to be decided. And I think what you hear is people who are coming here for the first time tonight. It's not because we don't care, but it's because we just became aware of this and we're like, we need to table it. We need to have a further discussion to hear more about it before, it's abruptly decided. And I think you've heard a lot of community members who haven't come forward before to speak were drawn to do it now. And I hope you listen and make the decision that's best for our entire community of who we've all lived here for a very long time. And I don't know what the problem is, okay? So I know it's politically charged, that is a problem, okay? But our community, I don't see why we need to create these words. We live from our heart. And I get confused with all the rhetoric of, laws and everything. We have a constitution. I believe in that with all my heart. And it was formulated for a reason. It stood the test of time. And I don't really understand why this has to be pushed through tonight when it's obvious that a lot of the community would like to just examine a little further. And at the very least, put it on the next election ballot, if we want this. so everybody has an opportunity to be aware of it. And if they don't vote, well, then that's on them. But, just please listen to everyone. We're all talking from our hearts. We care. We care about the community that we have lived in for a very, very long time. And we're asking you, there's no problem just to table it for further community input. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Jared McDonald. I live out in North Middleton. I apologize. I absolutely hate speaking in front of people. However, it is that important to me because I am a father of 3. I also... Sorry, I just wanted to be closer.
I thought it was on.
No, I apologize. I'll step closer. As a father of 3 and a business owner, I actually spend a lot of time in Carlisle, in the borough of. And so, to the point of many people who have stated, like I only found out about it tonight, is, well, I have 3 kids, guys, and I also have a business to run, and so it wasn't brought to my attention until tonight. So I don't know how long it's been in play, but I do know that I'm not the only one, right? And I absolutely love, I do love open discussion, right? Like I appreciate opinions of the other side. I don't have anything against anybody. It isn't, anything even remotely about that. It's about looking at things. In my opinions, I'm a numbers guy. It's all I do all day long. As a contractor, I see my guys working and they're messing around, and I'm like, man, that's money gone, right? So I see it as minutes, time, etc. So I would say this. Somebody stated, and I don't know, this is what they stated, but it was 117 false arrests. Well, we have many false arrests on many different accounts that aren't related to immigration. And that number across the total population of the United States is 0.00000014625. Are you kidding me? That's not a basis of argument. That's so insane. It's bound to happen. It's unfortunate. Absolutely. 100%. It's the last thing I want to see. I have a stepmother who came here from Russia. I watched the entire process, the naturalization. I saw the money go into it. The time, the effort, all of those things, and how difficult it truly was. I have a friend whose wife is from Thailand. Same thing. Same thing. And to the statements of, oh, legality, schmegality, they're people. Yes, they are. They're absolutely people. I agree. I 100% agree they're people. But if I go and I don't drink. I haven't. I've been sober for 10 years. But let's say I did. Thank you. But let's say that I did. Let's say that I went home tonight and I literally took 5 shots and then I got in the car with my 3 kids and I drove down the street and Carlisle police pulled me over. Guess what? They're going to take me from my kids. That's just the law. It's the law. I mean, it's really just, it seems like common sense, and it just seems like we get further and further away from it. I just, again, I mean, I really think I'm not opposing any one individual, but I do believe in our Constitution. I do believe in people, and I've seen the ones who have fought so hard to become naturalized. I have seen my industry affected by it. There's just so many things here. There's so many things I don't want to repeat because I feel like we eventually get to beating a dead horse. But the one thing that I would like to stress is I think every one of us is busy. I mean, we're all here until it's 8 o'clock now. And I'm not the only one with kids and a family. I'm not the only one in this room with a business. So the fact that I only found out about it tonight, and as North Middleton, I'm your neighbor. So love your neighbor. I mean, consider my opinion too. Thank you.
Probably won't need the full 5 minutes, but thank you. So my name's Jordan Wanger. I live in North Middleton Township as well. I grew up in the borough for 18 years. I still work in the borough. Kids go to school here. So thank you for hearing me out. Thank you for being here. So I think if we're being honest, and I'll state off first that I'm here obviously to oppose this, and I believe that you should table it. I think if we're being honest about what this is, it's being marketed as building trust. But what it actually does is prevent our police and local officials from cooperating with federal immigration authorities. That's not building trust, that's refusing to enforce the law and ultimately causing confusion. These policies of sanctuary cities do greater damage to the country than I think we all understand. And I believe at their core more of a rejection of immigration laws. The Constitution gives Congress, not local governments, the sole authority to set immigration policy that's noted in Article 1, Section 8, as we heard from earlier this evening. And the Supremacy Clause in Article 6 makes it clear that federal law is the law of the land. When local governments decide which federal laws they follow or ignore, they cross a constitutional line, in my opinion. I absolutely support local autonomy when the federal government oversteps or violates the Constitution. But this ordinance does the opposite. I think it violates the spirit of our Constitution by undermining the rule of law and limiting the enforcement of laws designed to protect our nation's security and sovereignty. I don't think it's about compassion, it's about accountability. It's about fairness to those who were born or came here illegally and who respect our system. It's about keeping Carlisle focused on protecting its citizens, not making political statements that weaken public safety and confuse our officers and our citizens. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Watson. I live at 109 East Park Street. And like many others here, I haven't been to one of these meetings before, but I'm glad to be here now. I came because I got a text message from a friend about an hour ago, and she was urging people to come. And so I came out and wasn't planning to speak, but jotted down some notes as I was sitting in the back there and decided to say my piece like many others. I am part of a welcome team that welcomed a refugee family here to Carlisle that came under refugee status, an immigrant family from Afghanistan a year and a half ago. There was a group of us from our church. There were several groups actually who welcomed different families to the area. And that has been a very lovely, enriching experience for me and my family to sort of get to know this family and be part of their life. I was actually on my way to pick up the teenage daughter of this family to go out for coffee this evening when I got the text message from the friend. And I thought, oh, how convenient. Maybe we should take a little detour here and see what's going on down at the Borough Hall. So that's how I ended up here. I would just say about this family, they are a wonderful family living and serving in our community. They are stocking the shelves at your local Weis. They are pushing the carts back from the parking lot to the store at your local Giant and slicing your deli meat and deli cheeses and pineapples and watermelon at Giant as well. So they are really giving back to the community, and they're making a decent life here and trying their best to make a new life for their family here in the U.S. after having served our government overseas in Afghanistan and being turned on by their own government because of it. I would agree that, yes, it's part of our individual capacity. Someone, 5 or 10 speakers ago mentioned that it's part of our individual capacity to protect and look out for those in need. And I would say that's true, but that part of protecting and looking out for those in need is ensuring legal protections for them. And as you've noticed by me saying that this was part of my church welcome team, I am a Christian and my faith is very important to me. And one of the verses that motivates me in all of this is Leviticus 19:34. It says, "The foreigner who resides with you must be to you like a native citizen among you. So you must love him as yourself, because you were foreigners in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God." So with that in mind, out of decency, out of morality, or out of faith, if that's part of your belief system, I urge you to adopt this ordinance. Thank you.
Hello, Jim Cheney, 251 South Hanover Street. I was raised very conservative. I went to the Answers in Genesis, conventions where they talked about creationism and all this stuff. I was raised very conservative, but I've been raised my whole life that what makes America great, if your goal is really to make America great again, is immigrants. It's a melting pot. That's what I was taught my whole life. No, it doesn't matter what side of a made-up border you were born on. Okay? The American border has been a thing since, 1776, maybe even more recently than that, depending on which state you're talking about. Do you realize that the first immigration law controlling immigration into the U.S. was after the Civil War? So all these people talking about, the Constitution, the Founding Fathers, they didn't put any laws in place regarding keeping people from coming into our country. Zero. Okay? Almost, unless you are Native American, 100% Native American, every single person here, your ancestors are immigrants. This, not necessarily, until the, and you know what? You realize that in Ellis Island.
Can we pause this time a second? Please don't interrupt. He has 5 minutes to provide public comment. Thank you.
I will respond to your comment though. At Ellis Island, do you realize what you had to do to get in? Show up. That's it. You had to show up and you were let in. They sent back less than 2% of people who showed up. That was all you had to do. This past week, I was in an Italian immigrant museum, an Italian American museum in New York, and I actually took a picture of a sign, and I thought it was worth sharing here. Why Americans hated Italian immigrants. Number one, they were Catholic. Number two, they were not always considered white. Racism was rampant in the 19th and earliest 20th century. Coming here tonight, it evidently still is. Locals felt threatened by massive Italian immigrants would change their country. Italian immigrants were mostly uneducated and poor. People were worried that they would take their jobs. Okay, this is a sign in an Italian American museum. I guarantee you some of you are Italian American. Your ancestors experienced racism when they came here, just like I'm hearing tonight. Okay, America is a land of immigrants. Every person here is an immigrant in some way or another. Okay, it doesn't matter what side of a line you were born on. We're all people, we're all human. We all have the same wants, desires, thoughts. And I would much rather be living next to undocumented immigrants from any country than a lot of the people I'm hearing here, because they're here to work, they're here to be honest, they're here to care about others. Okay? And that's all that really matters. Okay? And it really upsets me, and I'm sorry I'm getting upset, but it's really hard to listen to these things, especially listening to a pastor a little bit earlier, and talking about being against people, not caring, not loving people. Like, we're all people. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter how you got here. Who cares? Really? Like, who cares? Like, I am so proud of Carlisle standing up and putting their foot down and saying that we're a welcoming community. And I strongly encourage you to pass this, because at the end of the day, loving other people, loving the people who come here, the less fortunate, is the most important thing, regardless of whether that's a religious belief or not. That's what's important, is caring about others and being concerned about them and wanting the best for people and wanting people to come here and experience a welcoming community, regardless of where they're from, regardless of how they got here. And I just hope that people who are immigrants to this area, and anybody who's immigrant here, feels that, because it's not something that we should be doing as a community, disparaging them. That's all. I would encourage you to pass it. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Becky Holden, and I live at 832 Forbes. We've been residents in Carlisle for 36 years. I've been a resident of Pennsylvania almost all my life. My family is residents of the Northeast going back to before the Revolutionary War, and we've had relatives fight in every war for this country. I hope I've been a good citizen in Carlisle. I worked in Bosler Library a number of years, volunteered for Carlisle Area School District about 17 years, and taught confirmation for almost a decade in my local church. I was actually on the way home from Panera. My husband was nice enough to stop by because I feel strongly about this. I just wanted to say, from what I've gathered from many, many, many news sources, over 170 citizens have been picked up in error by Homeland Security and ICE in these immigration enforcement efforts. I support this ordinance tonight. because I don't believe in our borough resources going toward an effort that is not sourced well enough. The people are not trained well enough. I haven't been at the citizen detainment, so I don't know exactly what happened, but I would hate to see our resources being used that way. It's not okay on a national or a local level. And so I'm in support of the ordinance tonight because I don't think that's a wise use of our resources to actually be detaining citizens or people on their way to citizenship. My children were mostly in school in the 90s when Carlisle welcomed a large number of Bosnian families who had undergone political persecution in Europe. And the amount of education, warmth, eye-opening, just sharing different cultures and experiences in my children's school, I can't, imagine their schooling without those immigrants now. And I don't know exactly what stage of immigration they were in. And from what I understand, again, these arrests are not being sourced real well. And people who are on their way to obtaining legal citizenship, as everybody should, are still being picked up. And I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with the resources of the borough going toward it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Hello, Paul Howell, North Middleton Township. My business is here in the Carlisle Borough, and so is my daughter's school. I'd like to start out by saying immigration did not build this country. Settlers built this country. You had men and women get on boats and sail across an ocean, and they come to a forest where there's no foundation and no buildings and no nothing, and they create something. And those people then decide to create a government. And those guys decided to then leave a more powerful government for their own government, for self-rule. Illegal immigration costs this country right now every year somewhere between 150 billion and $287 billion a year. At most, illegal immigrants, only 17% will pay any type of federal taxes at all inside their to the federal government. So less than 20% of them pay any type of federal taxes. In one hospital, and done by the DHS in Texas, one hospital had 31,000 emergency room visits in November of 2024, costing that hospital $121 million. We are not afraid of people to be beside us. You're right. We call 911. We ask what your emergency is. We don't ask what your race is. We don't ask where you're from. What we're worried about is the day that we call an emergency and we get no help. We're worried about the time where we send our kids to school and our reading teachers are diverted to teach kids English as a second language. That's what we're worried about. And there's a reason that we run on certain things in this country. That's what we need to do. If you want to run on a federal law, run for Congress, run on that platform. I'd love to see it.
Hello, my name is Rick Christie, and I was just at a wonderful meeting called Moving Circles, where friendship and neighborliness, and I was just there, and then I heard that this was going on, and so forgive me for coming late, and forgive me for not knowing all the details. But basically, it is so interesting how we just continue to demonize people and allow them to be used as pawns in political wars. When, I've been around the block a time or three. I've seen Reagan and all the presidents since talk about the strength of this nation is our melting pot. The strength of this nation is the diversity that comes. So I don't want Carlisle. Sure, we need comprehensive rules for our borders and immigration, but we don't need people not identifying themselves, looking like thugs, and just pushing innocent people down and just throwing people willy-nilly out of jail. I don't want Carlisle in any way, shape, or form. This is a beautiful town. This is a beautiful borough. I do not want us cooperating other than by following the law. Whatever, I just want us to keep welcoming. When I was running for office, I went in a community right where I grew up and raised my kids as a single parent. These beautiful homes, are filled with, looked like a 1950s neighborhood, and it was the American Garoon Society they were persecuted in their own country of Bhutan for speaking Nepalese, and they came from refugee camps, and they're here legally, and they've built great community all around us. A great community. I said, my goodness, Somme, this is such a beautiful area. This reminds me, when I was a kid, the kids were out riding bikes. The families are extended. They are adding to our culture. And to demonize people for political reasons and all is something that we in Carlisle, I live in Carlisle, we should not be doing that. We'll follow the law. We need comprehensive rules and laws, which have been scuttled for politics in the past at a federal level, but we need to use our town as a welcoming town for all. And that's what I have to say about it. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Terry Hagelin. I live on Harrisburg Pike. Maybe I'm the last one here. I would ask you to take a little bit different look. First, my comment is I love Carlisle. Been here for 40 plus years. I love our country. I've spilled blood for it. The people in this room have spilled blood for it. We spilled it for the American people, for the flag, and for the country, and for the Constitution. I want to ask you to take another look. It's something called risk. You're assuming risk, but you're placing the risk on the citizens here. Each one of you is responsible for the risk that you're about ready to take. And if you're wrong, it's going to take forever, maybe, to reverse what you cause. I live in the real world. Okay, I'm a Christian. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a pastor. I'm a real world person. I live every day in this world. I deal with it every day. I don't live in a perfect world. I live in the real world. And the real world is not 100% fair. It never is. Look at the statistics that you received. My goodness, how small that is. How small an exception that is. But look what you're potentially getting ready to do with this risk. I assure you, if you don't want ice here, you're getting ready to make the wrong decision, because you're going to make this place like a magnet. And that's going to attract all the attention that you don't want. And if you think it won't, it's going to be the only one in this county. It's going to roll all the way up to the national level before it's all over. This borough doesn't have enough money to do that in court. It doesn't have enough money to defend you and you and you, because I assume you have insurance for every person who sits on this board. So you're protected. The community is not. That's where the money has to come from. It's got to come from someplace. It doesn't drop out of the air. So I would say to you, first of all, I would say, do not approve this. Kill it. If you can't do that, at least defer it, because the decision you're getting ready to make, it sounds like it's a decision tonight. It's going to be something that's going to keep recurring years down the road. My grandchildren, I'm 81. My great-grandchildren, your children, grandchildren, all of you are going to live with the decision you get ready to make, and you're putting a heck of a risk on this community and the people who've lived here for years and who are citizens of the United States of America and who love this country and have been here for years and years and years and have given their hard work and their blood, sweat, and tears for the country. Thank you.
My name is Chris Arnzen. I live at 151 West Pomfret Street in Carlisle. I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but I've become so outraged by my Christian faith being slandered and the giggling back there. People think it's a riot to mock and slander people of a faith. For some reason, it's always Christians. Impugning to us motives of racism, which is an absolute slanderous lie. There's no basis in fact to it. the people who are most harmed by illegal immigration or illegal aliens are in fact lower income people. Rich Caucasians aren't harmed financially by communities being flooded and invaded by illegal aliens. It's the poorer people that are harmed most. And it's interesting that I haven't heard anything tonight about all of the women and children being raped and murdered by illegal aliens and people killed by drunk, intoxicated truck drivers, and on we go. There is a thing called misplaced compassion, which is actually evil. It's like the father who has children in his own home, and yet he's giving all of his money away to friends and other children in the community while his own children starve. We've got to look out for people who are legally here first. That doesn't mean a hatred of anybody else. And it just means that those that are legally here have priority, just like I'm sure that anybody who is affirming this would not allow me if I showed up on their doorstep and said, you know, I've got about 20 friends that we'd like to camp out in your property. You'd say, who the heck are you? I don't even know who you are. I don't know anything about your background. Get out of here. Well, why is that different than allowing hundreds of, if not thousands of strangers that we know nothing about, all of these wonderful motives being given to them? We don't know these people. How could you say a broad brush claim that they're all here to get jobs and to be positive contributors to society? We don't know that. You don't know that. So I'm here just to finally say that it has nothing to do with racism at all. That's a slander. It's a vicious lie. And why don't you try to mock somebody else's religion and see how far it gets you? Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Price. I live at 778 West South Street here in the Carlisle Borough. I just want to extend again my appreciation to every member of the council that has brought up this ordinance and is planning to vote for it, and I encourage you to vote for it tonight. When I go to the borough to pick up a trash bag, they don't ask me anything other than for a form of payment, right? It's just a simple transaction. And if I'm out on my lawn raking leaves, and let me also say to those of you that are responsible for buying this leaf sucker truck, thank you. My life is significantly better than it was because I can push those out into the street. But my spouse is not from here. She was not born here. And she looks different than someone who would have been born here. That's good. Everybody has their own way of looking. But it's a concern for me, right? Because I read the news like everyone. And I look out and I see people getting napped off the street. And I'm worried. I don't want the guy driving the leaf sucker truck to look at my wife and go, oh, maybe she shouldn't be here. Maybe I'll call ICE. Now, Carlisle employees are awesome people. They wouldn't do that. So we don't really need this ordinance, but we do need this ordinance because it's a values statement, right? Because my wife, she's worried. She's worried for our daughter. She's worried for her family. I'm worried for her. I want her to be proud of the place she lives. So I want no doubt in anyone's mind, this is a statement of values. We are a place that loves people. We love immigrants. This community is full of them. They are great people. They go to our schools. They run our businesses. They serve us food. They build our buildings. They're awesome folks. And we have no business inquiring with them about their immigration status, whatever it may be. So please pass this ordinance. Thank you very much.
Dr. Gary Blacksmith, 1215 Georgetown Circle in Carlisle. I get the impression that a number of people here like to see more criminals. It would just unbelievable. I want to tell you a 1 minute story. I had a couple in my office a number of years ago, and they were new to Carlisle. I said, "Where are you from?" They said, "Ohio." I said, "Well, what brought you to Carlisle?" They said, "Well, Carlisle has a reputation for the best benefits. I get more from the government, the state, the feds, everybody. That's why we're here." You tell me the truth? He said, "Yeah." So we need to punish criminals. We need to take care of our folks that are in need, but we don't need to promote criminals. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Laszlo, pastor, 532 South Hanover Street. I'm going to speak against this ordinance. Several people who are for it have already said, they have said it, that it's unnecessary. It restates policies that are already in effect. So what's the point? The point, as many see it, is this is political virtue signaling, trying to placate extremists in our community. That's how we see it. We have read your statement about the policies that are already in effect. You stated that. So why add this to it? It's unnecessary. Chief of Police has made his statements on how we're managing. So we're managing. Why do we need this ordinance? I repeat, it appears to be that you're doing virtue signaling to placate extremists who are pushing this. Now, one of the things that will happen, this is not an if, is Carlisle will become a magnet community for illegal, law-violating aliens. That's the proper legal term for them. What may that result in? Well, if we don't coordinate with the federal government, and the smell of this ordinance indicates that we will try to avoid doing that, we may not be able to get information on those who are arrested here to find out their other criminal activities elsewhere. And we have seen across this country what that has resulted in. Egregious, brutal crime. Are we telling our citizens that we will not do due diligence to deal with those who are under our legal control? One of the things that you've seen tonight that is already a result of your proposal is disunity in this community. You have stirred up the pot. Thank you for bringing disunity to Carlisle. Did we need this? Think about that. If we refuse to work with the federal authorities, that will cause issues with them. What particularly may happen, we don't know, but things could happen. Lack of intelligence sharing and other things. Now, there have been other occasions in this community where citizens have been upset enough with egregiously wrong proposals. Let me go back to 2008. Not the Borough Council. Carlisle Area School District put out a policy that teachers could not attend the See You at the Pole event in September. Prayer event. We were the only school district in the Commonwealth to do that. And the solicitor did poor due diligence. So the fact that a solicitor, attorneys looked at this doesn't make that it is legally sufficient. Well, We had hearings after hearings on television, radio. The board refused to withdraw its support of the superintendent's policy. And we refused to back down. When they got the legal papers served them, things changed. Are you prepared to put this council under that legal trial with the extended time given to it and expenses and the discredit and division that it will cause? Do you really want to do that? Because that is exactly what will happen. So, here we are, legally virtue signaling. What I am saying is this ordinance is counterproductive. Counterproductive. Nobody on our side has said that we want to mistreat anybody, but we do want to follow the law. One word not out of your
Mr.
mouth
Pastor,
is...
that was your time. So I'll give you a sentence to conclude.
Thank you.
Sure.
I urge you, at a minimum, to table this and to vote it down, or there will be consequences you don't want to deal with.
Hi, Owen Parker, 613 North Henry Street. Yeah, I was not planning on speaking, but let's go. So I'm sensing a lot of tension here, and it does kind of worry me. So to kind of maybe break that up a little bit, like short history lesson. There was a man who was really, really good at using tension. In the past, and his name was Carl Schmitt, someone that folks here may wish to look up. His observation was that the border was where the sovereign, the president, the king, the state, whatever, separates friend from enemy, good from bad, citizen from non-citizen. And being as he was not a fan of democracy, he saw it as a fantastic weapon for destroying democracy. See, he pointed out that all you had to do to get folks to tear each other apart, and I mean just rip into each other, and so beg for a strong leader to solve the chaos, was to normalize terrible violence against non-citizens, and then move that border just inward. Just keep moving inward. Make more and more people like not real Americans, not worthy of being treated equally under the law. Anyway, given how effective that philosophy was at turning, citizens into dead bodies in the past, it behooves us to be wary of it in the future. So with that in mind, I simply think it might be wise for our community to disentangle this town from a secret police force, a force with a record of brutalizing, kidnapping, and yes, killing whoever sounds vaguely foreign. And yes, that is literally a valid reason for ICE to disappear someone. So if you object to that characterization, please take it up with SCOTUS. Put simply, let's stay local. Keep our concerns and cares local. We can adhere to the law while not carrying water for the yawning moral void that is the federal government. Additionally, while I understand that civil offenses should warrant a response, I just don't think we need to work hand in glove with people who think an offense is legally serious as a jaywalking charge needs to be solved with debt cord and deportation to states with refugee enslavement crises. Put succinctly, if someone wants us to specifically invite state security to destroy the lives and properties of people in our community, I would suggest that someone call SWAT on themselves and leave the rest of us out of it. Now, I'd rather not have our town participate in leaving our morals in the ditch while we seek the duteous benefit of this single act not being the reason our funding is cut. Because there could be others. We don't know what they're going to be. It's kind of arbitrary right now. If this has to be the reason our funding gets cut, at least we got it done helping ourselves and helping our neighbors. Also, as a Christian, I do not appreciate my religion being slandered. Christ commanded us to love our neighbors as we love ourselves, neighbors, not fellow subjects or citizens. Additionally, I think that using Christ's name to specifically thwart his commandments is wrong. Please consider Matthew 7:21 if you'd like to know more. Finally, on one side of my family, we came in on Ellis Island 2 generations ago. The process was we got checked for pink eye and given a really bad spelling of our Italian surname. On the other side, well, it goes back a ways. We came here before we were a country, but family myth is we were petty smugglers who were just getting over here. We were illegal when we got here. There wasn't even a country, and we were settlers, and that is definitely an immigrant. So I think that's all I had to say about that. Thank you for listening, and please do pass this bill.
Good evening. My name's Leslie Rhodes. I live in Gardners, Dickinson Township specifically, which is part of the Carlisle School District. I didn't plan to speak tonight. I didn't think non-residents were permitted to speak. If that's some sort of special provision you've made for this evening, I thank you. Okay, oh, that's that's quite generous. My granddaughters are the 6th generation of my family to go to Carlisle schools. The youngest one and her father look like you and you. And the lady who spoke earlier, I don't know quite where she is right now, but he is the sole proprietor and operator of the Green family daddy daycare. He is the stay-at-home dad. And I might add, even their dog is brown. You may have seen them. They spend quite a lot of time walking around Carlisle, walking around specifically the campus of Dickinson College. Him pushing the stroller with the Cash, the dog. And I can tell you that they do not spend 1 second worried about being picked up by some whatever these people think is happening. Do I think that perhaps some of the instances that have been brought up happen? Yes, probably. But do I think that's the status quo? No. We are not talking about residents. We are not talking about citizens. We are not talking about, yes, they may be our neighbors because they've landed here near us, but they're not citizens. I just don't know why people can't grasp such a simple concept. We have immigration laws, and they need to be followed. Are they perfect? No, probably not. And am I well versed enough to stand here and tell you what they are or what should be changed about them? No, but they're there, and they're there for a reason, and they need to be followed. I was not prepared to speak. I've just been jotting things down as I've been sitting there listening. I just want to comment specifically on a couple of things that were said. Someone in the back of the room made a comment about women and children because they're not being killed by illegal immigrants. Rachel Morin, Jocelyn Nungare, Laken Riley. That is exactly what happened to them. And they would still be with us today if it weren't for illegal immigrants. And I want to iterate the point too, that this doesn't come from a place of race or hate. It has nothing to do with that. I am so tired, sick and tired of being looked at as a white woman and a Christian with an R after my name and people assuming that I'm a racist. I'm sick of it. I think lastly, I don't think anybody's brought this up this evening. I'd like to remind, well, no, there are two, the pastor and the gentleman in the back who spoke about Christianity. Was that love I heard from you? Or was that disdain for your neighbors who happen to disagree with the way you think? And lastly, I would like to remind everyone in this room that we wouldn't even be having this conversation if the Biden administration hadn't let millions of illegal immigrants into this country to wreak this havoc on our citizens in the first place. I thank you for your time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Cawthon. I live in North College Street here in the borough. First off, I'd like to say...
Let's make sure your mic works before we get started.
Testing, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead and speak.
All right, we can hear me now? Okay. Good evening. My name is Robert Cawthon. I live in North College Street. First, I'd like to say that I'm a veteran. I have served with members of the service of every color, every faith. I consider them my brothers and sisters. My best friend is a Mexican immigrant. He got a citizenship legally. I consider him my brother. I call him an uncle to my children. So this is not about hate. This is not about racism. This is not any of that. What it is about children. It is a well-known fact that illegal immigration creates sex trafficking of minors and women, adult women as well. But the amount of children that have been sex trafficked in the last few years because of the illegal immigration problem is insane, and it has to be stopped. And we cannot let Carlisle become a part of that. So voting to make Carlisle Sanctuary City is voting to create a safe space for people to traffic minors and to traffic women. Additionally, it puts officers at risk when they cannot pick somebody up who has been arrested at the Cumberland County Jail and instead have to come out into the borough and into the community to chase these people. It puts the officers at risk. It puts the citizens at risk. Somebody just driving down the road may get struck by a vehicle in all the chaos of trying to pick somebody up who's already been arrested. And lastly, I would just like to say that this kind of feels like it came out of nowhere, and I came in halfway through this just finding out that it was happening, and that just doesn't feel right. So, thank you.
Hi, Representative Barpline. I am happy to say that I have the pleasure of renting an office in the borough, 437 East North Street. And I'm here just to talk about the illegal alien aspect of the ordinance, not the whole ordinance, but that one in particular. And I have known about the ordinance. I've had staff letting me know. I actually didn't think you were going to go through with it, which is why I'm here tonight. I would argue that passing an ordinance like this one before us only stirs the community concern over its implications as it relates to illegal immigration conducted under the prior administration, as Leslie said. As a member of the General Assembly who rents an office in the borough and who also took the oath of office to uphold and defend the Constitution, I disagree with the mayor and his council's interpretation of the current president's executive orders, especially as it relates to the 10th Amendment and current immigration law. First and perhaps foremost, the 10th Amendment does not apply if a power is delegated to the federal government by the Constitution. The Constitution specifically delegates authority over naturalization to the federal government through Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4, which gives Congress an authority to create a uniform rule of naturalization. Second, the Supreme Court recognized for at least 100 years that the President and Congress have the plenary authority over immigration, which most of the responsibility is falling actually on our President of the United States. These 2 points combined, Congress can and has the constitutional authority to preempt state and local laws under the Supremacy Clause. Any sanctuary policy, therefore, is already preempted. Carlisle can be and is one of the most welcoming cities in the Commonwealth. However, that does not allow the borough to harbor anyone who has broken U.S. law by entering the country illegally and to receive taxpayer-funded services through a welcoming ordinance. The Supreme Court has long recognized that municipalities are created as convenient agencies for exercising such governmental powers of the state as may be entrusted to them. As a creation of the state, Carlisle did not surrender power to the federal government and so cannot retain authority in this case. That is to say, the 10th Amendment does not reserve the power to make or enforce sanctuary policies that have the purpose of contradicting federal immigration statutes to Carlisle as a municipality. I encourage the borough to carry on legally without revising this ordinance. If there is a resident of Carlisle who has entered our country in an illegal manner, they have broken our laws. The kindness of the borough can show is to help them with the legal process of leaving and then re-entering legally. For the following things I just want to say in good spirit, let's encourage everybody to do the legal thing here. And I also want to know let the solicitor know that a very prominent lawyer, Tom King, who is an expert in the Constitution, is watching. And he has said he will appeal this if you pass it, and he will litigate it. So please think about that. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jimmy Kingsborough. I live at 6 Wellington Court, Carlisle. Born and raised in Carlisle. I don't know if I can follow what Barb said. That was just phenomenal. I think our case rests. But this ordinance not only should be tabled, it should be thrown out. It's not because we don't want immigrants. We want legal immigrants. Right. I know been born here in Carlisle, have a lot of friends. I brought up this issue over the last several weeks. And how many people do you think are in favor of this? Nobody. Nobody. So please take it into consideration and appreciate your time.
Good evening. Tawanda Stallworth, Courtyard Lane, Carlisle, PA. I left my ID back there. I wasn't sure, Steph, if you needed to see it to make sure that I can speak tonight. I left my passport at home, but I assure you I am a U.S. citizen. I was born at the old Carlisle Hospital. My family's been here for 7 generations. Does this sound ridiculous yet? I do want to emphasize that I'm a little sad tonight because I feel like, much to this gentleman's point, that this has created significant and additional division in our community, perpetuated by the national political theater. And that's what's unfortunate. And so we're using words like illegal, we're using words like alien, we're using words like rape and murder and all of these types of things. And there is truth to some of what's being said. However, this division is not who Carlisle is. You can clap there. This community is a welcoming community. This community said that more than 2 years ago. They established a vision for this community that is welcoming. And it is welcoming, and that does not need the qualifier of however or whatever else we want to put with it. It's also, again, very important for us to remember that the borough's policies and procedures and codes, the ways that they are already operating, all this does is say what they are already doing. I wonder what other intersections of current code and policy might find their way into the national political theater that would create division in our community, because that's all that's happening here tonight. We are better than this. And we have more priorities and concerns, particularly at the state legislative level. So I can't tell y'all what to do. Y'all will already have made up your minds. You have heard plenty of information here tonight. There may be people that come to speak after me. I have to soon pick up my target order before they close. But I would just encourage all of us to remember who we are and to remember the children in this community and remember that they are watching us. They are watching what we say about each other. They are watching how we talk to one another. And if that is not what drives us, then we are all misguided. So I would encourage us to keep the main thing, because we are Carlisle. And nothing will ever change that. God bless you. Thank you.
Hi, Rachel James, 97 Courtyard Drive. One is actually like my neighbor, so that's perfect. I'm not going to articulate on this ordinance specifically. I think I'm pretty clear on where I stand. I just want to take this moment to thank the Borough Council. As a municipal solicitor myself, I am well aware that this issue has been on the agenda since like April, right? This is a long time coming. And the amount of time and energy and public comment that you guys have listened to and considered and taken and really sat with is truly commendable. And I hope that everyone in this audience is well aware that these people just volunteer their time to serve this community, right? And to serve you all. And so really, truly, I think it's a debt of gratitude that people like you put into this community to make sure that things like this are considered, right? And to serve your community is an act of service. So really, I just wanted to come here and say thank you, and that I see you guys, and that I appreciate you, and that I hope everyone here and that's watching is grateful for the time and energy you've put into this and to all the consideration you've given it, really. So thank you all.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item before we close out Borough Hall comment? Is there anybody on Zoom?
I have at least one comment that they had to leave the meeting, but you want me to read it now?
Okay, sure. You can go ahead and read it.
Okay, so this is from, let me make the window a little bigger. From Katie Olivero from 711 Hillside Drive. My kids, oh man, we don't want to read the part, she had put her kids to bed. I direct you to section 4.2. No borough agent shall condition the provisions of borough service or benefits on matters related to citizenship or immigration status unless mandated by federal or state law or a court order. Note that unless this, there might be a typo here. Note the unless, there we go. This is in no way ask Carlisle to act outside the law. It does ask that Carlisle workers, like law enforcement or medical workers, not ask about citizenship or immigration status unless it is necessary. And asking about citizenship, immigration status, when it is unnecessary, actually undercuts public safety. When a victim of a petty theft or burglary or a hate crime of domestic violence doesn't call law enforcement or doesn't call for an ambulance for fear that the people that come to take their report might look at their skin color, accent, or that of a family member and call ICE, that hurts them, public safety, and all of us.
Okay. Was there anything else?
Nobody else has their hands up at this point.
Okay. And the period for public comment is closed, and we'll move on to. We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions or comments that any member of council would like to provide? Go ahead, Councilor Mellon.
All right. So thank you all for taking the time to come out here tonight. You know, no matter what side of the issue came on, citizen participation is really important, and we're glad to see so many of you here. So I have stated previously at the September council meeting, I completely understand the sentiment behind this ordinance. As I've said before, I believe that the current immigration enforcement tactics that are taken by the federal administration are horrific. They're inhumane. And I understand the impetus behind the call for this ordinance to want to make sure that our most vulnerable neighbors are protected. As a couple of people have referenced here, we did pass a statement at the September council meeting that addresses the fact that the things the ordinance is calling for are things the borough is already doing. So the ordinance really does nothing to change or improve our current policy or procedures, but it simply codifies what already exists. So I have also stated previously that I don't believe there's a material benefit to passing the ordinance that outweighs the potential consequences of passing it. I have stated those consequences before, but before I do that, I want to address what I think those consequences are not, right? I am not worried that this is going to bring increased crime to our community. Evidence has shown that immigrants commit crimes at a much lower rate than American citizens do. So I'm not at all concerned about that. I am not worried about an increase in human trafficking. I do work closely with a number of nonprofit organizations in the community, particularly YWCA, that addresses human trafficking. I know that it exists in this community, but statistically, most human trafficking is done by relatives, people that the victim already knows, not by people that are far removed and this boogeyman of illegal immigrants, right? That's not a concern of mine in this ordinance. I'm also not concerned that we're going to have a huge influx in people wanting to come here because we are a so-called sanctuary city. I'm not concerned at all about that. I don't believe that we are going to have an increased strain on services in our community. Yes, they're already strained. Yes, we do have an affordable housing crisis in this town. I do not want, however, you to be conflating the housing crisis and the immigration crisis. They are both incredibly complex issues that don't have one cause, and they have complex solutions that obviously we haven't completely arrived at yet. But to conflate them together means it's less likely that we'll be able to solve either of them. So I don't want us to consider that. So the consequences that I am concerned about, as I've stated before, is the risk of being caught in lengthy and potentially costly legal battles. So we've already heard that there will be a lawsuit, at least one. That puts taxpayer funds at risk, and we're gambling in a court system that I frankly don't have a lot of confidence in right now in the current climate that they'll do the right thing. The consequences that I'm concerned about also include the potential loss of federal grants, perhaps hundreds of thousands or potentially millions of dollars that will allow us to complete really important projects in our community, things like road improvements, pedestrian safety, removing PFAS from our water supply, and a lot more. I'm worried that those federal funds will be put at risk. So even if the administration isn't successful in clawing back previously allocated grant dollars, they can certainly tie them up indefinitely, and we may not be the recipient of further grants. But all of those concerns that I have pale in comparison to the possibility that passing this ordinance might make us a target of increased immigration enforcement and therefore put our immigrant neighbors at even greater risk, making them less safe than they even already are now. So for those reasons, and only those reasons, I will vote no on this ordinance.
Would anybody else on council like to speak on this? Is that a no? Anyone else? No. Okay. I'm going to say a couple things. One, because statements that I made to Mr. Evans that others have clearly read have been horribly mischaracterized by folks this evening. I think I'll start there. And let me start with Section 5, because it's been pointed out several times. Section 5, subsections 1 and 2 are consistent with the 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution, which is an equal provision of the United States Constitution. Subsection 3 is a protection under the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and to the states and local governments through the 14th Amendment. Let's talk a little bit about what my statement was. One, my statement's been mischaracterized this evening as suggesting that I said that the federal government has no role in immigration, or that we could usurp the federal government's role in immigration. That is not the statement that I made. The truth is, for those who might remember back to their first year constitutional law class, the attorneys here, the 10th Amendment does prohibit the federal government from commandeering local resources and policies. I think council will agree with me on that item. In fact, on the issue of immigration, our Third Circuit, I don't want to turn this into a law school class, but for those who aren't aware of the appellate courts in our federal government, there are trial courts. Here we live in the Middle District of Pennsylvania. That's the federal trial court. The intermediate appellate court is the Third Circuit, and then appeals would go on to the United States Supreme Court. The Third Circuit, and for counsel who want to look this up, I'm going to botch the one name, but it's Galarza v. Salchik, and it's 745 F. 3rd 634, and the specific citation is 644. That's the Third Circuit from 2014. And they ruled that, quote, a federal detainer, filed with state or local law enforcement agency is a command to detain an individual on behalf of the federal government and would violate the anti-commandeering doctrine of the 10th Amendment, as in New York and Prince. Those are two Supreme Court cases. Immigration officials may not compel state and local agencies to expend funds and resources to effectuate a federal regulatory scheme. So that's the nuance that I think was mischaracterized from my statement this evening. I'm not saying that the federal government doesn't have a constitutional right and duty to regulate immigration. What I am saying is that they cannot compel local government to take on that authority. And that's the distinction. And that's the distinction that this ordinance makes. And I think we all need to make sure that we, as council, completely and fully inform the public on those issues. We have a duty to do so. And in fact, I swore an oath to do so, as did every attorney here this evening, to uphold, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And I love this country. I've served this community. I've never served this country in the military, but my family has for generations. Many have talked about generations. My father's family arrived here before the revolution from Germany. My mother's family arrived here in the early part of the last century from Italy, from Calabria. And they came at a time when immigration laws were not nearly as strict as they are these days. They came over on a boat. They arrived at Ellis Island. And somebody already described the simplicity of that process. They were healthy, and they had sufficient funds to maintain themselves. So they were able to immigrate here to the United States and eventually arrived in Ambler, Pennsylvania, a couple hours east of here. Their culture wasn't accepted in this country. My family had bricks thrown through their windows. There was tremendous bigotry, and that's been talked about before. Nowadays, Italians are fully accepted members of American society. That wasn't always true. And so those stories came down through generations of my family. My grandmother was born shortly after my great-grandparents arrived here in the United States. And they had a love of this country, as much as my father's family had a love of this country. As I said, my family served in the Revolutionary War. They served in the Civil War. They served in every conflict up at least through Grenada. And my brother currently serves in the United States Navy. My brother took that oath to obey, uphold, and defend the United States Constitution, just as my father did and my grandfathers before that. I took that oath as an attorney. I've taken that oath 7 times as an elected official. I'll take it once more, at least, on January 5th, 2026. And I'll do that because I was re-elected in a borough with 71% of the vote, in a borough that's only 47% Democratic. And so, and I believe that's because folks know that I love this community and I love this country. That means that I also love every person who wants to be here and wants to abide by our local laws, even if they've arrived here illegally. And I want to explain that what this ordinance does is it doesn't tell our police that they cannot enforce the crimes code. I think that's been at least suggested here. If folks break the law, if folks break the crime code, our police will investigate it. The DA's office will prosecute them if charged, and a jury will hear the case and determine whether we've made our case. Nothing changes that under this ordinance. The enforcement of crime is not changed under this ordinance. What we have heard tonight, which I believe is true, is that what this can do is allow folks who may be undocumented to be more free with their communications with law enforcement and other borough personnel, whether it's codes issues or the crimes code, including human trafficking that everybody likes to bring up in relationship to immigration. And thank you, Councilor Mellon, for clearing the record on that issue. I would prefer we not spend all this time over these last many months on this issue. There are, to me, much more pressing issues locally. Councilor Mellon talked about them. I'm very concerned about the unhoused here in our community. I'm very concerned about the unaffordability of housing here and throughout the state, throughout this country. People are getting squeezed. But what I do is I love every person on this planet. I was raised Christian. Whether that came from my Christian upbringing or otherwise, I love everyone. I love everyone who disagrees with me. I love citizen and non-citizen alike, and I'm not going to categorize people and prioritize people based on their citizenry or on how long they've lived here in Carlisle. I think we made our statement in September. I think that's consistent with our practice, as is this ordinance. I do want to thank you all for being here tonight. We don't always get so many visitors. Thank everybody for being mostly civil and not interrupting each other just once or twice. And I truly appreciate the local operation of democracy and what you've brought here to us tonight. So if there's no other comment from council, there's been a motion and a second. I'll call the question, and it is a roll call vote. Madam Secretary.
Deputy Mayor Landis. Aye. Ms. Mellon.
No.
Ms. Carey.
Aye.
Ms. Roos?
Aye.
Mr. Stiles?
Aye.
Mr. Stubbe?
Aye.
Mayor Schultz?
Aye. The motion carries.
You were incredibly eloquent, and that's why I didn't even try to say anything, because I knew they would too. He did so.
That's fine. Okay, we still have a bit of a meeting yet, folks, so we're gonna proceed. It's okay. That's okay. I don't get to see Attorney Matei as often as we used to when we worked right behind each other. But. Okay, next is new business. So if you want to be heard on another issue of borough government, you can come forward to the podium. I'm not seeing anybody jumping forward. Stephanie? Okay. All right. The Deputy Mayor is ready to adjourn, but does anybody want to make any final comments? Okay. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you all.